Chapter 658. What do you mean? Annie asked with a pale expression. Miss, this is Lin Xing's pre-screening. Everyone here is a big shot in the entertainment industry. Forgive me for being straightforward, but what is your identity? The security guard asked. Fine, I indeed have no identity. But what about her? Annie asked as she pointed to Chen Xingyan. Does she have an identity? Of course Miss Chen has an identity. She is representing Lin Xing's good friend, Tongning. Since she is representing Tongning, she is also Lin Xing's VIP. If Miss N doesn't return her seat to Miss Chen, I will have to call security to clear the venue. Annie glared at Chen Xingyan, but she had no choice but to stand up from her seat. Here I was thinking, it turns out Tongning was indeed on good terms with you. But, if Tongning really treats you well, why hasn't she helped you clarify your scandal? If Tongning really treats you well, why hasn't she introduced you to some good people? Actually, this seat was originally prepared for Miss N. But, since Miss Chen is attending, it naturally belongs to Miss Chen, the security guard said politely. This is how Miss Tang treats Miss N, the head of security said politely to the group. It turned out. This seat originally belonged to her. But, Tongning actually snatched it for Chen Xingyan. She was getting revenge. Tongning was getting revenge for Chen Xingyan. Chen Xingyan was also stunned. She never expected that this was all arranged by Tongning. It turned out, this was Tongning's motive for attending the pre-screening. In that case, where should I sit? Annie asked as she held back her anger. Don't tell me you want me to sit on the floor? If Miss N wants, you can do that. Of course, there are platforms at the front and back of the theater. I think Miss N can give it a try. You guys have gone too far, Annie yelled in a loud voice. I'm sorry, but our security guard has already said that we are bullying you, the security guard said with a smile. The person in charge said with a smile, if Miss N can't stand it, you can choose to leave. Annie's hands had already turned white as she gripped her bag tightly. It was obvious how much force she was using. She had already signed with a new agency and hooked up with President Wang. But, who would have thought, when it came to the entertainment industry, President Wang could only watch as she was bullied and couldn't do anything to help. No, I won't leave like this. In that case, please go ahead. The manager smiled as he leaned over and said to Chen Xingyan, Miss Chen, if you need anything, please let me know. I will do my best to serve you. Thank you, but I don't need it for now. Chen Xingyan was indeed satisfied. It turned out, this was the feeling of stealing from someone else. Especially since the other party was Annie. All right, then I'll retreat. After speaking, the manager turned around. But before he left, he said to Annie, everyone here is famous in the industry. I'm sure Miss N wouldn't be so bored as to block the view of others, right? In that case, don't blame me for not warning you. When the time comes, you'll offend even more big shots, and it won't be as simple as having your position stolen. To them, dealing with you will be as easy as crushing an ant. Annie was furious, but all she could do was look at President Wang. However, President Wang was still a newcomer in the industry. Against Lin Xing's home turf, he did not have the ability to resist. So, no one paid any attention to her. She could only retreat to the back of the theater. Everyone had a seat, but she didn't. No, it wasn't that she didn't have a seat, it was simply stolen by Chen Xingyan. Quite a few people turned their heads and pointed at Annie. Annie could obviously sense the ridicule in their eyes. She was so tempted to dig a hole and hide in it. This was all thanks to Chen Xingyan. No, she hadn't lost yet. Even though Tongning stood up for Chen Xingyan, she was still an actress of the Savage Wars. Chen Xingyan still had nothing and was surrounded by scandals. But, it didn't take long before Annie couldn't feel happy anymore. Because, before the film started, Lin Xing stood on stage to give a speech. However, before he could say much, Tongning walked onto the stage from the other side of the theater. As the mystery guest, Tongning's appearance naturally caused the audience to scream. Whether they were familiar with her or not, everyone was in awe of her legend. Oh God, I can't believe it's Tongning. I can't believe Tongning is here. Am I seeing things? It's really Tongning. She's still so beautiful even when she's pregnant. The pair of legs that the entire world is praising, they are so long. As Chen Xingyan listened to the exclamations around him, He finally realized that a person could be so charming that the entire world could cheer for them and not take their eyes off of them. Of course, Lin Sheng was also surprised. After all, with Tang Ning's current status and body, the fact that she had appeared on his home turf made him extremely moved. From the look in Tang Ning's eyes, he could tell that she was still the same Tang Ning that would do anything for the sake of filming. She hadn't changed at all. Most importantly, she knew how to be grateful. Sheng Ge, congratulations on your film's success. Tang Ning rarely made an appearance in public. Even when she was slandered by Hua Wenfeng, she never made an appearance in public again. So, one could imagine how much face she was giving Lin Sheng. I'm surprised that you made it, Lin Sheng gently hugged Tang Ning. I've always remembered the help you've given me, Tang Ning replied with a smile. It's not even worth mentioning. Today, I'm here to give you a present, Tang Ning said into the microphone as she placed her gaze on Qin Xingyan. I heard from Luo Ge that you've been looking for a martial arts master. I have a very good candidate in mind. Although she is very young, she is a master of martial arts. I'm sure she won't disappoint you. After hearing Tang Ning's words, Lin Xing understood her motive. It turned out she wanted to introduce him to someone. Of course, if someone else had said this, Lin Xing would have been disgusted. But Tang Ning cleverly mentioned that she was very young. So, how young could she be to be so skilled? Xingyan, come up here. Use your own method to wish Xingge great box office success, Tang Ning said to Qin Xingyan after seeing that Lin Xing did not object. Everyone understood that Tang Ning was helping a younger generation. So, what kind of younger generation could receive Tang Ning's attention? Soon, a 10-year-old girl stood up from the crowd. Everyone looked at Qin Xingyan in surprise, but not many people recognized that she was the female lead of the scandal within Zihao. Everyone was curious, what could a young girl like her achieve? Qin Xingyan walked onto the stage and bowed to Lin Xing. She then faced the audience and finally, Annie. This was a chance that Tang Ning was giving her. She was giving her a chance to showcase herself and defeat Annie. Chapter 659. But the dress she was wearing was quite restrictive. Above all, she looked so weak. To everyone's surprise, Qin Xingyan tore open her dress and revealed her black safety pants. Afterwards, in a matter of seconds, she knocked out all the bodyguards behind Lin Xing. Ah! Everyone screamed in astonishment. Was this just a 19-year-old girl? How could she have such explosive power? However, after a brief moment of surprise, everyone laughed. This girl didn't seem to be very smart. At an event like this and with the support of Tang Ning, if she was someone else, she would have grabbed the opportunity to show off her abilities in front of Lin Xing. Yet, her performance was so lackluster. Even Annie, who was standing at the back of the stage, couldn't help but mock, idiot. But Tang Ning didn't think so. Qin Xingyan was a smart person in certain aspects. Today is Xing Ji's pre-screening, so I can't steal the spotlight. Plus, the pre-screening is about to start, so I can't waste everyone's time. I wish Xing Ji's film a box office success. After speaking, Qin Xingyan bowed to the crowd. Not fighting or snatching seemed to be in line with Tang Ning's teachings. Yet, she had already managed to win Lin Xing's attention and curiosity. You've let down Tang Ning's efforts? Because I know you like people who are capable, not people who play tricks. Lin Xing smiled at everyone before he turned to Tang Ning and Qin Xingyan. Sit beside me. Let's have a good chat. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. As a result, Qin Xingyan successfully moved from the back to the front. Of course, everyone simply treated this as a show. No one was jealous. Although Qin Xingyan was skilled, she obviously didn't pose much of a threat to the entertainment industry. The young girl's abilities were indeed rare. Most importantly, whether she was a stunt double or an action actress, it didn't have much of an impact on the audience. This young girl is quite interesting. At such a young age, her skills are not bad. On top of that, she has Tang Ning's support. She has a bright future ahead of her. From the looks of it, we may get to see her in Lin Xing's next film. Translator, Editor, the audience in front of the screen were already in a heated discussion about Qin Xingyan. As a result, Annie couldn't help but feel a little jealous. She had sacrificed her body and her conscience. In the end, she would rather have a friend like Tongning that could help her reach the heavens in a single step. No, she hadn't lost yet. The production team of The Savage Wars would soon announce that she was the female lead villain. She firmly believed that was her starting point. What's going on? You never do things like that. As soon as Lin Xing saw Qin Xingyan sitting on his left, he leaned over and whispered into Tongning's ear, a very important person. Brother Xing, both you and I have been slandered and ridiculed, let alone drenched in urine. Every time I think about this, I feel that if I don't help this child, I will feel very uncomfortable. This industry is filled with bloodshed every day, but we still need to maintain our own character. After Lin Xing heard this, he nodded his head. This is exactly what makes people admire you. This child is not bad. But, are you sure she will live up to your expectations? Whether she lives up to her expectations or not, we can talk about it after she gets her revenge. Tongning turned her head and pointed to the person standing at the back with her chin. No wonder. I thought I didn't arrange enough seats. It turns out it was all you're doing. Is that the culprit? If I didn't see it, it would have been fine. But, it happened right beside me. As you know, I can't stand to see things like this, so I had to clean it up. Strangely, as long as they were Tongning's friends, they couldn't help but share the same hatred. Tongning hated Annie. Even Lin Xing felt a sense of disgust towards her. Don't be too harsh. As you know, this is my place. Don't be polite. As for the young master, I think I'll find someone else. Otherwise, won't Zheo be angry? Lin Xing finally realized who Qin Xingyan was and remembered her relationship with Zheo. If Xingyan is really placed with you, he would be more than happy. How could he possibly be angry? The couple looked at each other and smiled. At this time, Qin Xingyan couldn't help but run to the bathroom. However, the bathroom was already bustling with noise. I just remembered. Isn't Qin Xingyan the stunt double that's currently rumored to be in a scandal? No wonder Tongning stepped forward. She has a good relationship with Zheo. That's true. But, hasn't everyone in the industry been talking about Tongning and Zheo's illicit relationship for a long time? Isn't this relationship a bit too messy? It makes me speechless. Their relationship is actually not messy. Let me help you sort it out. The three female celebrities stood in front of the sink, touching up their makeup and chatting excitedly. At this time, Annie appeared behind them with her arms crossed. Zheo and Tongning have always maintained a relationship. But, Zheo doesn't want to be left out, so he keeps looking for new prey. So, Qin Xingyan took the bait. The three women turned around and saw Annie. She was the woman standing in the last row. And who are you? How do you know so much? Who I am isn't important. What's important is that I know Qin Xingyan and Zheo have slept together. Plus, because Qin Xingyan offended someone, she was forced to drink urine. The three women laughed without hiding their laughter. Is this true? It's absolutely true. Annie nodded. She was surrounded by a few men. Don't tell me, she was raped by that? The three women asked nosily. Who knows? She's a rotten bitch to begin with. At this time, the bathroom door suddenly swung open. Before anyone could see who it was, they simply watched as the woman grabbed Annie by the hair and pushed her into the sinks. Everyone was shocked by the woman's actions. They quickly hid to one side and did not even dare to take a deep breath. Qin Xingyan, let go of me. However, Qin Xingyan did not let go. She once again grabbed Annie by the hair and dragged her over to the toilet and pushed her into the sink. From today onwards, you are also a woman that has eaten shits. Even so, the role in the Savage Wars is still mine. You are nothing. Hearing these provocative words, Qin Xingyan originally wanted to hit Annie again. But at this time, an extremely powerful voice called out from the bathroom door, Xingyan, stop. The three women looked towards the bathroom door and saw Tongning standing there with her stomach in her hands. The three gossipy actresses' expressions changed. Just as they were about to sneak away, Tongning placed her gaze on them and lifted her chin with a natural sense of nobility and arrogance. The three women couldn't withstand the pressure as they immediately apologized. Sorry, we won't do it again. But, I heard everything you said. Chapter 660. We didn't do it on purpose. Don't worry, I wouldn't dare to touch you. Otherwise, if word got out that I humiliated you and broke your arms and legs, wouldn't I be the scapegoat again? Tongning said with a deeper meaning. We won't go around talking about it. The women waved their hands. Tongning, please let us go. We don't actually believe the rumors that are going around. We simply can't hide our gossipy hearts. Get lost. Tongning did not waste any time on the women. Of course, she didn't allow Qin Xingyan to waste any time on Annie either. You come over here and leave with them. Qin Xingyan was still holding on to Annie's hair. After hearing Tongning's words, he forcefully let go of Annie's hand. Qin Xingyan, we are irreconcilable. Annie stood up with a head full of filth as she threatened Qin Xingyan. As long as I, Annie, am around, you will not have a good life. Qin Xingyan turned around and looked at Annie. Just as he was about to speak, Tongning suddenly said, in the entertainment industry, it's best not to be too confident. Annie turned around and looked at Tongning. Her eyes were filled with anger and humiliation. Let me wish you success in advance. After speaking, Tongning gestured to Qin Xingyan that it was time to restrain himself. Do you believe that? This world is all about retribution. If retribution isn't satisfying, why should you dirty your hands when dealing with people with bad intentions? Did you think I would be afraid just because you said that? Sooner or later, I will climb higher than you. Annie vowed. Tongning smiled gently, waiting to see what would happen. Of course, seeing how weak Tongning was and how she wasn't as strong as the rumors made her out to be, the fear in Annie's heart slowly disappeared. She thought, after Qin Xingyan pushed her into the toilet, Tongning would break her arms and legs. But in reality, Tongning did not do anything. What did she mean by revenge? Tongning was simply a hypocritical person. Tongning, why did you go easy on that bitch? Qin Xingyan asked as he chased after Tongning. You've already made her eat shit. Isn't it time to vent the anger in your heart? Tongning asked as she turned around. Qin Xingyan stood behind Tongning. Obviously, she didn't think it was enough. Even if you conquer her in terms of physical strength, she won't be convinced. Even if you let her eat shit for an entire night, the result won't be any different. After hearing this, Qin Xingyan suddenly felt that it made sense. If you want others to be convinced by you, you must first have the ability. If you really want to know where your abilities lie, you should hide your brilliance or listen to Nzaheo's arrangements. Tomorrow, there will be even worse news. You better be mentally prepared, Tongning warned Qin Xingyan. You were the one who did it. You will bear the consequences yourself. At that moment, Qin Xingyan didn't seem to understand the meaning behind Tongning's words. Plus, someone had indeed witnessed Qin Xingyan making a move. So, rather than being discovered in the future, it was better to let nature take its course. But that bitch looked down on you. Tongning did not say a word. Her expression was as calm as ever. The two quickly returned to the theater until the pre-screening was over. Tongning explained to Lin Xing, Xingyan made a move in the bathroom a moment ago. It may have caused you trouble. In that case, you saved me quite a bit of publicity money, Lin Xing replied casually. He was a 3-time best actor, how could he be affected by a small matter like this? Tongning smiled and pretended nothing had happened. After all, Qin Xingyan needed to get her revenge and vent her anger. But Qin Xingyan still needed more practice. So, Tongning decided to let the incident continue to ferment and teach her a lesson. Shocking news. Qin Xingyan hit someone. Who gave the stunt double the courage to be so arrogant? Tongning has bad taste. Not only did she fail to help a younger generation, she ended up getting herself into trouble. She wants to be famous. Stunt double reveals another bad record. Hit someone in the bathroom, humiliated her, and forced her to eat shit. This was the entertainment news the next morning. As soon as Bai Lihua saw it, she was shocked. She looked at Tongning in surprise, but she didn't know what to say. Auntie Bai, is there something you want to say to me? Tongning asked without lifting her head. She knew Bai Lihua was sneaking glances at her. About Xingyan, I'm afraid the child will. Don't worry, Auntie Bai, everything is under control. Actually, if you looked at the news carefully, you wouldn't notice that Tongning was mentioned in the article. Basically, it was a retelling of the truth. What is Tongning thinking? Why would she want to help a younger generation? This doesn't seem like Tongning's style. How could Tongning not be able to handle a situation like this? The internet was already in a heated discussion. In the end, everyone had two opinions regarding Tongning's handling of the incident. The first was that it wasn't that she didn't want to get revenge, but that it wasn't the right time yet. The second was that Tongning had really gone crazy from pregnancy and was slowly losing her aura in front of the public. Annie also began to cry in front of the public about her tragic experience and how she no longer had the courage to continue living after being humiliated by Chen Xingyan. Faced with the situation, Chen Xingyan suddenly felt flustered. She had no idea how to handle the situation. This was because the matter was like a snowball that was getting bigger and bigger, and more people were being implicated. She didn't know how to help herself and Zihao. Worst of all, Tongning was also dragged into the mess and everyone was scolding her for being pregnant. After seeing the news, Chen Xingyan thought for quite some time. In the end, she gave Zihao a phone call. I want to work. I want to take a role as an action actress. It would be best if it's a big film. I can handle hardships. Why do you suddenly want to work? And Zihao asked, is it because you want to escape? If I wanted to escape, I could have just left. Chen Xingyan explained anxiously. It's because I think it's time for me to change. Only if I receive a better job offer than Annie would it be a real blow to her. Who do you think would still want you? And Zihao asked. Oh. Chen Xingyan lowered her head in disappointment. Wait, I'll help you fight for a job. But you need to work hard. I will. At this time, Annie was still being interviewed by the reporters. Tongning really didn't bully me. She was the one that stopped Chen Xingyan. She's actually not as scary as the rumors make her out to be. This time, Annie did not slander Tongning. She simply described Tongning as a retarded person that no longer had the ruthlessness and elegance she once had. She seemed to be very pleased with herself. I think President Mo must be helping her from behind the scenes. Are you referring to the reason why she has gotten to where she is today? The reporters couldn't help but help Annie perfect her story. They wanted to watch a good show. From what I know, Tongning is not such a gentle person. Chapter 661. Director Matt watched Annie's interview through the screen. He rubbed his chin with his right hand, looking like he was deep in thought. Director, why don't we ignore Tongning's threat? Director Matt waved his hand at his assistant. That's not how things should be. But everyone is saying that Tongning is just a paper tiger. Oh no. Director Matt repeated. Don't be fooled by the surface. This move was probably made by Tongning herself. I've never seen such a realistic entertainment news report. Even their stance was clearly stated. Don't entertainment news only care about the results? With such a good topic, why didn't they exaggerate it to attract the attention of the audience? I can't possibly offend Hai Rue and Tongning over a small-time actress. It's unreasonable. After the assistant heard this, he felt it made sense. This Annie really didn't know her place. Seeing that Tongning hadn't made a move yet, she thought Tongning was afraid of a small character like her. Where did her confidence come from? This Annie sure is brainless. Inside Hyatt Regency, Long Jie was in a good mood because Lu Che had returned. So, she was enjoying the show that was going on. However, this move of yours is quite a big blow to Chen Xingyan. I'm sure she's feeling guilty right now. It's about time you stopped. I even thought of a series of ways to help her vent her anger. In the end, she went straight to the bathroom and gave her a beating. She completely ignored me and Lin Sheng. How could I possibly let her off easy? Forget about me, that was Xingji's home ground. Luckily, Xinggu didn't blame me. You make it sound good. I refuse to believe that you didn't know Chen Xingyan pushed Annie into the toilet. You simply want to see Chen Xingyan pay back a tooth for a tooth. But that brat was quite cool. She actually threw someone into the toilet. How creative. Not only did she push someone into the toilet, she even said, you can be considered someone who has eaten shit before. Tongning rolled her eyes at Long Jie. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Who did Chen Xingyan's temper resemble? Really? Ha! Long Jie rocked back and forth in laughter. What a genius! Tongning was helpless as she couldn't help but laugh. It's fine as long as it's not bad. I really want to see Annie's frustrated face now. I won't get tired of seeing her face being slapped even after 100 years. Although Long Jie had heard Annie's joke, she still hoped Tongning would clarify the matter as soon as possible. After all, Annie was at the peak of her arrogance. Now was the perfect time. What's so difficult about that? In reality, Tongning had indeed arranged this entire show. It was a simple scheme. How hard could someone like Annie be to deal with? Last night, although there were indeed eyewitnesses that witnessed Qin Xingyan hitting someone, none of them had the guts to expose the truth. So, the person that leaked the news was indeed Tongning. What she revealed was what she saw with her own eyes. Then, there's more to the Violence Gate incident. I didn't know that the one being beaten deserved it. The truth about Annie being flushed down the toilet is all here. Just after noon, the news released a new piece of information. It turned out the witnesses had stepped out to speak. Firstly, they admitted they were in the wrong for gossiping in the toilet. Then they heard Annie slandering others and slandering Tongning, which led to the disaster. She said that Qin Xingyan is a slut and that she was forced to drink urine. As a result, the media understood why Qin Xingyan had said that she had also eaten shit. I think there's a huge grudge between the two. Plus, since Annie mentioned it, it's possible that she was the one that arranged the incident. So, if I was in Annie's shoes, I wouldn't have been able to hold back and hit her. In that case, what did Tongning say at the time? The reporter asked. Tong, what did she say at the time? Karma must be bad. The group thought for a moment before replying confidently, actually, Annie's mouth is too cheap. Plus, we witnessed the entire process with our own eyes. There were no punches or kicks as she claimed. Annie simply pressed her down a little. That's the truth. We can't stand the criticism in our hearts. I hope everyone can forgive us. It was precisely because of the clarification of these few witnesses that the public opinion was biased in an instant. Originally, everyone was scolding Qin Xingyan for being stupid. But, after hearing their clarification, they suddenly felt that Qin Xingyan was just an impatient newcomer in the entertainment industry. Although being violent isn't right, there's nothing wrong with pressing down on her. It's no wonder that her mouth is being pushed down the toilet. All I want to say is, well done. Annie had cried so many times and put in so much effort to put on an act. Who would have thought, in just half a day, the tables would be turned? Not only that, everyone found out that she had hired someone to humiliate Qin Xingyan. This was the Tongning that Annie said had no killing power. Annie, now you know how gentle Tongning is. The entertainment critic laughed. For her, she doesn't need to be as heavy as crushing an ant to deal with you. As soon as the full article appeared, Annie smashed everything in her hotel room. It wasn't easy for her to find an opportunity, yet Qin Xingyan had turned the tables around. How shameful! After getting over her anger, Annie pulled out her phone and gave Director Matt's assistant a phone call. Mr. Assistant, when will we be holding a press conference? As soon as the assistant heard this, he immediately covered his phone and said, It's Annie. Put it on speakerphone, Matt said. As soon as possible, the assistant replied. What's wrong? It's nothing. I just wanted to confirm that when the time comes, I will be sure to dress up. The assistant actually wanted to say that Annie didn't need to dress up. Even if the role wasn't controversial, it was merely an antagonist, not a real female lead. So, there was no need to put on so much effort. But, Matt reminded his assistant to maintain his composure. So, the assistant cleared his throat and said, Okay, dress up. Okay, I understand. Thank you, Mr. Assistant. Annie seemed to have been cured by her own imagination. But, neither Matt nor his assistant understood why she was so full of herself. Just like that, the entire day passed in excitement. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office, Lu Che stood in front of Mo Ting and said, Today, the madam. I know, Mo Ting replied. Take good care of Tongning's mood. Arrange for whatever she wants. It will help relieve her boredom. It turned out, the reason Mo Ting allowed Annie to cry was because he was afraid she would be bored and wanted to relieve her boredom. Although Lu Che knew Mo Ting doted on his wife to no end, his bottom line was still being broken every day. Chapter 662. Chen Xingyan wanted a big film. Even if Nzaheo tried his best, who would dare to give it to her? Even if someone dared to, she had already missed her chance. In the end, Nzaheo brought Chen Xingyan to DK Agency for an interview. If there was anyone that was willing to give her a chance, it would be Lin Xing. Of course, Lin Xing only recommended Chen Xingyan to DK because of Tongning. Lin Xing's new film, Mega Beast, is currently recruiting actors. The female lead has not been confirmed yet. Go ahead and give it a try. Female lead? Chen Xingyan pointed to herself in disbelief. I can't act as the female leads. You can act as a stunt double for the female lead, Nzaheo explained calmly with his arms crossed. Nzaheo crossed his arms and explained calmly, Lin Xing's male lead, did you think anyone could be like Tongning? Do you think they can obtain his approval? Even if it's just a stunt double, there are still people fighting over it. Previously, when I asked you to be an action actress, you wanted to be a stunt double. Now, when I asked you to be a stunt double, you want to be an action actress. What do you want? Chen Xingyan looked at Nzaheo from behind. As she watched his back, she suddenly felt a little upset. Now that things have gotten to this point, it's already good enough that someone is still willing to hire you. Hearing this, Chen Xingyan suddenly stopped in her tracks. It's bad enough for others to humiliate me. Do you have to be so harsh with your words? Nzaheo also stopped in his tracks, but he did not turn around. If you want me to continue spoiling you, then you will forever be stuck between an action actress and a stunt double. Be realistic, you can't survive in this industry if you're naive. It didn't take long before the two women saw the CEO of DK Agency. However, the way he looked at them made Chen Xingyan feel extremely uncomfortable. Since Shungu has spoken, then I have nothing else to say. I will give you a chance, but only once. Follow me. Nzaheo gestured with his chin, gesturing for Chen Xingyan to follow him in while he waited outside. Chen Xingyan was not confident, so she maintained a 1-meter distance from the man. But she still heard him say, you don't need to act like you've done something wrong. In this industry, I've seen a lot of things like this. For the sake of getting ahead, there's nothing you can't do. Chen Xingyan originally wanted to say something, but when she thought about Tongning's words, she realized her words weren't convincing enough. Since it's a stunt double, of course we'll be looking at your skills. I will arrange for an experienced stunt double to spar with you. Let me see your abilities first. Fighting was her forte, so it wasn't difficult at all. However, when she finished her fight with the other stunt double and returned to the person in charge to ask for the result, the person in charge was playing with his phone. You can go now. Chen Xingyan wanted to slap him across the face, but she resisted the urge. She knew the director had no intention of using her. The only reason they agreed to let her audition was because of her relationship with Lin Xing. At that moment, Chen Xingyan really wanted to return to the film base and be an extra. She didn't need to put up with these people and didn't need to be bullied everywhere. But when she thought about what Nzaheo had done for her and how he had been implicated by her, she quickly gave up on the idea of retreating. So, she took a look at the person in charge's phone and found that he was playing a game that she usually played. So, she said to him, if I can beat you in the game, can you promise to give me a chance to audition? As soon as the man heard this, he lifted his head and looked at Chen Xingyan. He was suddenly interested. He then nodded his head and replied, sure, as long as you can beat me. Chen Xingyan also pulled out her phone, logged into her account and began to compete with the man. The man had never expected a little girl to be so good at a game like this. Within a few moves, she was defeated. But after the game, he was about to leave. Wait, didn't you say you would give me a chance to audition? Chen Xingyan immediately grabbed onto the man's arm and asked. Chance? I've already given you a chance. The man refused to admit his mistake as he left without a care in the world. Chen Xingyan realized she had been tricked, so her eyes filled with anger. But what could she do? However, at this time, just as the man was about to leave the room, Lin Xing suddenly appeared in the doorway and said to the man, I have decided on her role. The man obviously did not expect Lin Xing to see this, so his attitude immediately changed. Xing looks. I said, I will let her be the female lead. Lin Xing said to the man. I will take responsibility for all the consequences. After hearing Lin Xing's words, Chen Xingyan's eyes filled with tears because of Lin Xing's loyalty. Thank you, Xinggu. I've seen your performance just now. If you can't maintain this standard during filming, I will ask you to leave at any time. Lin Xing said the harsh words first. Once upon a time, Tongning also fell from the sky. But her acting surprised me. What about you? How much determination do you have to prove yourself? I will not disappoint Xinggu. Chen Xingyan bowed to Lin Xing. Everyone knows how to say nice things. Let's see how you perform when the time comes. After speaking, Lin Xing left, leaving Chen Xingyan with a cool silhouette. It was from this moment onwards that Lin Xing left a deep impression in Chen Xingyan's heart, and Zihao waited outside the entire time. In reality, he did not have much confidence in Chen Xingyan. Until he saw Lin Xing approach, the little brat has been tormented quite badly by you. She asked for it. And Zihao replied. But I have a feeling that she will be able to create a new you. Lin Xing shook his head as he patted Zihao on the shoulder and turned to leave. Of course, judging from Lin Xing's expression, Zihao could tell that Chen Xingyan had successfully secured the role. However, he never expected Chen Xingyan actually secured the role of female lead. The reason Lin Xing had the right to speak was because he was the producer of Mega Beast. Lin Xing is very strict with everyone. If you have the slightest dissatisfaction with him, he will definitely kick you out. Of course, he is also a very good teacher, and Zihao explained to Chen Xingyan. Remember, this is your only chance to prove yourself. Don't let Tongning pay the price for your reckless behavior. Chen Xingyan was like a hurt child the entire time. Ever since that incident, she had become a lot quieter than before. If you had signed a more obedient person, things would have been a lot easier. Chapter 663. Hearing this, Zihao suddenly laughed and replied, Are you talking about people like Annie? The Savage Wars is about to hold their press conference. It's an undeniable fact that Annie stole your role. You may even be hurt. Chen Xingyan lifted her head and looked at Zihao. At this time, Zihao stretched out his hand and gently patted her on the head. Very soon, I will definitely get justice for you. No, I can get it back on my own, Chen Xingyan replied stubbornly. You can say this to me after you become famous. After speaking, Zihao led her out of DK Film and Television and drove her to Hyatt Regency. As soon as she saw Tongning, Chen Xingyan stood in front of her with her ears drooping. It turned out, the matter that she was so worried about was nothing to Tongning. It was something that could be resolved in the blink of an eye. You were quite capable today. You secured the role of the female lead of Mega Beast. After hearing Zihao's words, Tongning looked at Chen Xingyan. Why aren't you happy? Xinggu, it's because... Did you think that Xinggu gave you this opportunity because of me? Tongning interrupted Chen Xingyan with a smile. Xinggu is indeed loyal, but he's not the kind of person you think he is. He never makes decisions based on who is close to him. In his world, roles are not to be messed with. If he doesn't think you are suitable, then no matter how much I take care of you, it would be useless. Let her find her own troubles. Zihao had no intention of relieving Chen Xingyan of her burden. The Savage Wars is about to hold their press conference. She should be feeling a little pressured. Tongning looked at Zihao without saying a word. Apart from Longjia, practically no one knew that she had met with Matt. Although Zihao cared about Chen Xingyan was still Mo Ting's sister. So, their motivations were different. Let's wait for a good show. Chen Xingyan was tired. After sitting for a while, she headed over to Bai Lihua's room to get some comfort. However, Bai Lihua wasn't in her room and her computer was turned on. Chen Xingyan couldn't help but take a closer look. But as soon as she saw it, she was shocked. She had no idea that Bai Lihua was going to visit a famous domestic entertainment forum. Shaoxing. Bai Lihua suddenly returned to her room. As soon as she saw Chen Xingyan sitting in front of the study table, she immediately ran over to block the laptop. Mom, are you playing a spy game? Chen Xingyan had already finished reading the post. So, you're the kind-hearted person that caused an uproar online? At this time, Chen Xingyan had no time to think about why Bai Lihua had previously gone online to help Tongning divert the public's attention. She simply felt that Bai Lihua was too amazing. She had no time to think about anything else. This included why Bai Lihua did what she did and why she said what she did. Mom is just trying to help. Bai Lihua tried to cover up. No, wait, when the incident with Tongning was revealed, you didn't even know her. Actually, Mom is a fan of Tongning. Bai Lihua went further and further away from the topic. I just can't stand seeing people slandering her, so I registered a username and made it up. I never expected it to have such an effect. Don't go around spouting nonsense. Browsing the forums is Mom's only hobby. I didn't expect you to be a hardcore fan. You really hit it well. Bai Lihua broke out in a cold sweat. If Chen Xingyan continued to question her, she wouldn't know how to respond. After all, if Chen Xingyan found out the truth, she would probably grab a knife and chop Hua Wenfeng up into pieces the next day. Bai Lihua couldn't take this risk. Before she defeated Hua Wenfeng, she couldn't let Chen Xingyan find out about her true identity. Chen Xingyan did not overthink it. After all, in her subconscious, Bai Lihua was just a normal woman. It was impossible for her to have anything to do with a wealthy family. So, she believed everything that Bai Lihua said. In fact, Bai Lihua's ability to use the internet to secretly help Tongning was quite miraculous. Don't tell Xiaoning, I'll be embarrassed. Don't stress it. I understand. Late at night, Mo Ting had not returned home yet. Although Tongning was pregnant, she still asked Lu Che to drive as she headed straight to Hai Rui to pick him up. However, after arriving at Hai Rui, she did not disturb Mo Ting. Instead, she slept in the waiting room and waited for him. Madam, I've heated up a glass of milk for you, the secretary outside said gently. It seems President Mo has been a little busy lately. The agency has a few newcomers that are quite popular and have a lot of new plans. Do you want me to notify the president? No need. I'm just a little bored waiting. You can keep me company for a while, Tongning replied. What would you like to know, madam? Is there anything interesting? Tongning asked. Nothing interesting. A couple of days ago, the agency signed a secret weapon, the secretary replied after thinking for a few seconds. The secretary thought for a few seconds before replying. It seems she is extremely talented, beautiful and has a great figure. Apparently, this newcomer is only 22 years old and has already written many popular songs. On top of that, she is also a scriptwriter. The currently popular palace drama, Luan Feng, was written by her. In the future, the agency will definitely put in a lot of effort to groom her. But when she realized Tongning wasn't interested, she simply laughed. Of course, you are still the president's biggest treasure. But who knows, you might end up acting in her script. That would definitely be interesting. While the secretary was talking, Mo Ting had already stepped into the waiting room and looked at Tongning. Why aren't you being obedient? Huh. I'll excuse myself first. The secretary immediately stood up and left as soon as she saw Mo Ting. Tongning wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's neck and said, I heard a lot of interesting things from your secretary. Apparently, the agency signed a secret weapon. Fang Yu is in charge, Mo Ting replied. Dealing with artists is now his responsibility. Aren't you afraid he'll take his artist and jump ship? Tongning blinked. First of all, he needs to be able to afford the penalty. Mo Ting helped Tongning up. It's already been 7 months. Don't do anything that will make me worry. How is it dangerous to pick my husband up from work? Tongning asked as she hugged Mo Ting. I miss you, our baby also misses you. Let's go home. Mo Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning's arm and left the underground car park. However, he had no idea that behind him, 2 women had also entered the underground car park. Is that Tongning? One of the women asked her assistant with a deeper meaning. Yes, that's Tongning, the assistant replied respectfully. Interesting. The woman watched as Tongning left before she boarded her sports car. She's no longer young. Chapter 664. Actually, whether she was young or not wasn't up to her to decide. A few days later, the Savage Wars held a grand press conference. That afternoon, Annie attended the press conference wearing a long silver dress. Perhaps it was because she was young, but she didn't seem to know how to restrain herself. Instead, she completely treated herself like the female lead of the film. To put it bluntly, her name was only in a small corner and couldn't even appear on the promotional photos. But she was arrogant and complacent, so she overestimated the Savage Wars. Backstage, Annie bumped into Matt in the corridor and greeted him warmly. But Matt had no idea who she was. It was only after his assistant mentioned her that he had a slight impression of her. "Hello, director. I will definitely work hard." Matt did not take another look at Annie as he walked past her. After a few steps, he finally asked his assistant, "Why do I still see this woman?" "Director, you told her to dress up." "Yes," I agreed. Matt waved his hand and shoved his right hand into his pocket. "How troublesome." "Hurry up and get rid of her," Matt said impatiently. He couldn't understand what Tongning was thinking. Was there a need to teach such a small character a lesson? The press conference is about to start. Even after Annie walked away, Matt was still cursing. But Annie was in a good mood. In fact, she imagined that if she successfully completed filming this film, she would be approached by plenty of other films in the future. Not only that, she would also be offered commercials, variety shows, and fashion resources. But while she was fantasizing, the press conference had already officially started. No one told Annie when she was supposed to appear on stage. By the time she reacted, the press conference had already started 20 minutes ago. The main cast and crew were already standing on stage, but there was no place for her. So, she walked up to Matt's assistant and told him that she was still there, but Matt was too busy to talk to her. "Go away. Mr. Assistant, I am the villain, Are you kidding me?" The assistant was annoyed, so he turned around and glared at Annie with disgust. "All the actors are already on stage. For you. That's impossible, I am also one of your actors. Didn't you already give me the role of Qin Xingyan?" After hearing what Annie said, the assistant came to a sudden realization. "Oh," she replied. "Another replacement." What? Annie obviously couldn't accept the other party's answer. It was clearly decided that it would be me. How could you just change the person? Who do you think you are? The assistant was infuriated by Annie's words and pushed her to the ground. It's normal to be replaced if the actress isn't suitable. No. That's impossible. After speaking, Annie rushed onto the stage and squeezed herself in front of the actors. Everyone looked at her in surprise, their eyes full of questions. Matt shouted, "Where did this lunatic come from?" "Security. Protect them." Because almost all the actors were foreigners, they were puzzled by the sudden appearance of this Asian face. Then, the security guards went on stage and took Annie away. They took her backstage and sent her to her assistant's room. "Are you sick? I was obviously your chosen actress." Annie yelled. "Why are you still denying it?" Seeing how agitated Annie was, the assistant gave her a tight slap. "Get lost right now. Liar. Liar. Didn't President Wang tell you that we've already handed the contract to him? You should be looking for your boss, not making a scene here. I don't have the right or responsibility to inform you. Do you really think of yourself as an actress? You're only suited to acting as a corpse, yet you want to act as the villain? You sure know how to flatter yourself." After hearing this, Annie was stunned. She pulled out her phone and gave President Wang a phone call with trembling hands. "President Wang, did you know that the Savage Wars has been replaced?" "I know," Director Wang replied lazily on the other end of the phone. "But you didn't tell me. Plus, a couple of days ago, I called my assistant to ask if I wanted to dress up for the events." "Annie, let's just leave it at that. I only received the contract termination that night and made a small profit from it. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I never expected you to cause a scene at the event," President Wang replied heartlessly. "The film company has terminated their contract with me. It's time for me to say goodbye to you. I don't want to offend Tongning because of you." "What did you say?" Annie felt extremely angry and humiliated. "I'll get my lawyer to send you a contract termination letter in a moment. You shouldn't be so naive from now on. Take care of yourself." Annie never imagined that the new chapter in her life that she thought was about to open up was all for naught. She could never have imagined that the Savage Wars was actually teasing her. What was even more hateful was that Xiao Wang had forcibly taken over her body and forced her to walk on the path of unspoken rules. In the end, he had kicked her away and consigned her to eternal damnation. Not only that, the news of her breaking into the press conference was spread around like a joke. No one notified the actress that had been replaced. As a result, the actress caused a scene at the press conference and her fate was as expected. It was extremely embarrassing. Isn't this a bit too funny? Isn't this the woman that had a lot of drama a couple of days ago? I feel really embarrassed for her. She didn't care what other people thought, but she wanted to know what Chen Xingyan was thinking. Every time she thought about how Chen Xingyan was waiting to laugh at her, she felt helpless. The only good thing was, although the role ended up with someone else, at least she managed to snatch it from Chen Xingyan's hands. Even if she didn't get it, it wouldn't have gone to Chen Xingyan. But God didn't let her get what she wanted. It didn't take long before a rumor began to spread that Best Actor Lin Xing's film had a new actress. Official Weibo speculated about all the popular actresses, but no one expected that the female lead would end up with a new newcomer. Not only that, this newcomer turned out to be the young girl that Zihao was currently involved in a scandal with. It was none other than Chen Xingyan. No one expected that Chen Xingyan would end up as the female lead of Mega Beast. What was Lin Xing thinking? This made Annie crazy with disbelief. That's impossible. This is just Chen Xingyan's way of creating hype. How could a best actor possibly act with her? But when the reporters interviewed Lin Xing and asked him about Chen Xingyan, he simply replied, "Nothing is impossible." In other words, he admitted that the public speculations were true. As for the two actresses that once worked under Zihao, their futures were suddenly revealed. Chapter 665. But, for Annie, this wasn't the worst blow. Because it didn't take long before a recording of President Wang's conversation was leaked to the publics. As for the rumors between Chen Xingyan and Zihao, they were all self-directed by Annie. This was a result that no one, including President Wang, expected. In fact, even Zihao. After all, when Tongning did this, she did not mention it to anyone. Annie was like a street rat that was stepped on over and over again. From being discovered by Zihao to being abandoned by the entertainment industry, only a few days had passed. It was like a dream. Annie lost everything, including her pure body. Yet in the end she ended up like this. She really wanted to see Chen Xingyan or Zihao again. But, with their current status, she no longer had the right to do so. Annie even returned to the apartment with the intention of stopping Chen Xingyan. But, after the incident, Chen Xingyan moved out of the apartment. Now that she had signed a contract with Lin Xing's film, her status naturally increased. In Tongning's words, Annie said, "It's already over before it's even begun." Annie wasn't willing to give up, so she went to Hyatt Regency to stop Chen Xingyan. But when faced with Annie, Chen Xingyan suddenly felt her anger disappear as she sat in the van. Zihao glanced at Chen Xingyan and asked, "Why wouldn't you give up on such a good opportunity for revenge?" "I can already see the difference between us," Chen Xingyan replied. "Sheng Ji's strict training plan is still waiting for me." After hearing this, Zihao gently patted Chen Xingyan on the head. "Go enjoy Lin Xing's hellish training, but what? But don't develop feelings for him that you shouldn't have." Zihao paused for a moment before he reminded. her, "Lin Xing is crazy about acting. If you fall in love with him, you will be hurt." "I'm going to act. Don't you think you're overthinking it?" Chen Xingyan humphed disapprovingly. "If you're afraid of the bed, take this with you." Zihao handed Chen Xingyan a doll from home. "With this, I'm sure you won't need to call me and ask me to move a bed for you." Chen Xingyan held the doll in her hands. She didn't know what to feel, but she immediately calmed down. Zihao's warmth could still be felt on the doll. "Help me thank Ningjie. She seems to have done a lot for me. Just take care of yourself." Zihao indicated that there was no need for her to worry at all. Actually, Zihao was quite curious as to why Tongning was so protective of Chen Xingyan. After all, the two of them had never interacted before. But from the looks of it, Tongning had done a lot of things without his permission. It was obvious she treated Qin Xingyan as one of her own. After escorting Qin Xingyan to Hyatt Regency, and Zihao asked Tongning, "Don't you think the way you protect Qin Xingyan is a little too much?" "Really?" Tongning asked disapprovingly. "That Annie suffered a terrible fate. Are you really not going to tell me the reason? I can only tell you to be polite to her. She's not an ordinary person." She then returned her focus to the script. "Since your innocence has been proven, it's time for you to do some homework on director Qin Feng. Don't you want the assistant director position anymore?" "No, there's one more thing that I need to do." Darcy didn't contact him for no reason. Plus, he had already promised to get justice for Qin Xingyan, so he wasn't going to go back on his word. "What kind of feelings do you have for Qin Xingyan?" Tongning couldn't understand, so she asked Zihao. And Zihao remained silent for a moment before replying casually, "Of course, it's my little disciple." After hearing this, Tongning let out a laugh and did not say another word. To be exact, Qin Xingyan's life had not completely changed yet. At this point, there was nothing she could say. But when Qin Xingyan's identity was revealed, it was going to scare a lot of people, including Zihao. If Zihao found out that the person he was trampling on was actually the heiress of Hai Rui and Mo Ting's sister, the scene would definitely be interesting to watch. In reality, Tongning had no idea what Zihao was planning to do. But, in just half a month, the production team of The Savage Wars announced that they were disbanding because the investment company behind them had been shut down for tax evasion. The people involved were all sent to jail. At this time, Tongning discovered something. It seemed Zihao had sold his villa and replaced it with his own sports car. Where did his money go? "Ting, can you help me investigate why Zihao has been in such a tight financial situation recently?" "He used it to pay Darcy's legal fees," Mo Ting replied. "He came looking for me a while ago, just so he could overthrow Matt? I don't understand what he's thinking. If he can't protect the people he cares about, then he is just an empty shell with no value." The fact that Zihao is willing to spend so much money for Qin Xingyan is proof of his courage and responsibility as a man, Mo Ting said in seriousness as he removed his jacket. "At least he's loyal. If Xingyan found out, how heartbroken would she be?" Tongning couldn't help but sigh. Afterwards, she wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's neck and asked, "Since Xingyan's matter has come to an end, shouldn't we resolve Hua Wenfeng's matter? How much longer are we going to let this fake be happy for? Every time I think about how Auntie Bai has lived like this for 19 years, I can't help but feel sad." After you give birth, Mo Ting gently stroked Tongning's stomach. Mo Ting gently stroked Tongning's stomach as he closed his eyes and felt the subtle connection between them. "I don't want you to be in any danger." Tongning also lowered her head and looked at her stomach. Every time she thought about how their blood flowed through the baby's body, she couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. "Ning, in 2 days, I will be going on a business trip. Ask Auntie Bai to pack her things and I'll take you with me." "Where are we going?" Tongning asked. "Hai Rui's newly built film studio," Mo Ting replied. "This is Hai Rui's tradition. If I don't show up, I'll be breaking the rules. It's not convenient for me to take care of the baby and I'll be a burden to you. Auntie Bai is at home now, so you don't have to worry." Tongning thought about it for a while. Every time she thought about the journey, she was worried that she wouldn't be able to handle it. No matter how much she wanted to be with Mo Ting, she couldn't disregard the baby in her stomach. "It's just going to take a nap. You'll be home soon, right?" Mo Ting looked at Tongning and placed a kiss on her forehead. "Uh-huh." Even if it wasn't right, he was going to make it right. Chapter 666. The Set of Mega Beast. Deep in the forest. In order to quickly adapt to the cameras and meet Lin Xing's standards, Qin Xingyan spent all her time from morning to night practicing her acting in a secluded place. Even though, in her heart, she believed that the most suitable role for her was still a stunt double. But in order to gain the ability to protect others, she found the motivation to face the cameras again. As a result, she was the first to arrive on set in the morning and the last to go to bed at night. Needless to say, because she had some medical skills, Chen Xingyan quickly made a name for herself on set. Whether it was the director or the staff, if they had a sore back or leg, they would all look for her to massage. That night, Chen Xingyan sat on a chair while waiting for her scenes to start reading her script. As the forest was cold and the scenes were long, the crew did not return to the hotel. So, as soon as Lin Xing finished filming and saw Chen Xingyan curled up in her chair, he immediately grabbed a blanket from his assistant and placed it on her from behind. Chen Xingyan turned around to look at Lin Xing and smiled. "Thank you, Xingge. You sure know how to play small tricks. Seeing that every time you fail, you have to do the director a favor. No wonder you can't hear the director scolding you on set." Lin Xing glanced at the clothes and blanket on the director's body. They obviously belonged to Chen Xingyan. When it comes to acting, you are miles behind Tongning. But when it comes to taking care of people, you have even managed to tame a small stage reporter. Is this considered a skill? Chen Xingyan felt a little guilty. "Xingge. Actually, you don't need to practice in front of the mirror every day. All you need to do is act like you are." Lin Xing reached out his hand to stop Chen Xingyan from continuing. Before Chen Xingyan arrived for the audition, he had already looked through her information in detail. Of course, the reason why he chose her without hesitation was because, for others, the role would require more practice, but for Chen Xingyan, it would save him a lot of effort. Thank you, Xingge. It's strange. You like to play small tricks and take advantage of opportunities. You should be the type of person I hate the most. Yet I can't find it in me to hate you. Just like I said, this is also a skill. Good luck, Lin Xing said as he patted Chen Xingyan on the shoulder and turned to leave. Chen Xingyan hugged the blanket as she jumped up from her chair in joy at Lin Xing's confirmation. Hearing her cheers, the crew members looked at her with confusion. Among them was Enziheo, who had been standing not too far away from her. However, in the end, Enziheo did not approach her. He simply picked up the blanket and left. He had already seen the concern that Lin Xing had for Chen Xingyan. However, he misunderstood that Chen Xingyan was happy because of Lin Xing's concern. So, Enziheo did not tell Chen Xingyan about his visit. Instead, he quietly arrived and quietly left. Chen Xingyan did not manage to see Enziheo. But, after staying up all night and returning to the hotel, she saw the fresh lychees in the room and knew that Enziheo must have visited. Therefore, she called Enziheo. "Why are you pretending to be alive? Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" "I'm happy," Enziheo replied indifferently as he lay on the bed. "Why are you acting so weird so early in the morning? Go die." After speaking, Chen Xingyan hung up the phone angrily. Enziheo shifted into a lying position. Even he didn't know why, he couldn't help but feel annoyed at Chen Xingyan. However, this might be better. 2 days later, in the afternoon, Tongning was keeping Mo Ting company at Hai Rui. Mo Ting's 5 p.m. flight was about to leave and he would not be by her side that night. She couldn't remember the last time they had been apart. Ever since she got pregnant, apart from work, Mo Ting had spent all his time with her. He had practically no time for himself. Thinking of this, her heart ached a little. Under the sunlight, the man's face appeared handsome and gentle. Especially his obsidian-like eyes, which constantly emitted a sharp glow, making him look particularly dazzling and charming. Not long after, Lu Che entered the office with some documents. Apart from documents for Mo Ting to sign, he also handed over an invitation. "President, this is an invitation to the GXE International Screenwriter Competition. Song Xian won first prize. Although she has only just signed with Hai Rui, the organizers have already sent the invitation directly to the CEO's office." "You." Mo Ting did not even lift his head as he gestured for Lu Che to hand the invitation to Fang Yu. "Haven't you gotten used to this?" "I'm sorry, President. Don't forget my identity." Mo Ting was reminding Fang Yu that he was still Tongning's personal manager. Plus, he was well aware that there were still female celebrities that would find all sorts of excuses to leave a good impression in front of him. It seems, Vice President Fang wants to avoid arousing suspicion, so he asked me to ask for your opinion. It seemed that the two men, in order to reassure their respective women, had handled their female relationships very well. Tongning couldn't help but smile. Since he doesn't want to go, throw it in the bin, Ting said straightforwardly. As a member of the wife-doting brigade, Lu Che naturally didn't want to get involved in a situation like this. So, he threw the invitation away. This is the first time I've seen you deal with something like this? In that case, do you trust me? This was also the first time Ting had asked Tongning something like this. Tongning looked into Ting's eyes. After being married for so long, Tongning had never been jealous of Ting when it came to women. After all, Ting had never done anything that made her uncomfortable. For example, in front of her. Tongning did not respond, but Ting already knew the answer. Above all, Tongning knew that Ting only left Hairue as soon as it was time to board the plane so he could spend a little more time with her. Who is this Song Exin? Tongning asked Lu Che after Ting left. As Lu Che escorted Tongning to the underground car park, he replied, "She's the artist that the agency recently signed." Is she the secret weapon? Lu Che was stunned for a second before he nodded his head. The madam is indeed well informed. This artist is indeed talented. She has just won an international screenwriting award. As they spoke, the couple arrived at the underground car park. However, just as Tongning stepped into her car, a confident voice suddenly sounded from behind. "It is my honor to be asked about by the famous Tongning." Tongning turned around to find a woman with long, wavy hair dressed in a black trench coat standing behind them with a wild aura. She was, after all, an artist from Hairue. Every aspect of her had her own unique charm. Tongning did not say a word. To be exact, she didn't like people being too familiar with her. Of course, the woman looked at Tongning with great interest. After quite some time, she finally said, "But I must say, you are getting old. After you give birth, will you only be able to take on milk powder commercials?" Chapter 667. Song Exin. I heard from a few people I know from the milk powder agency that they have listed you as their #1 candidate. You should feel lucky that you are about to receive a sky-high endorsement fee. Song Exin completely ignored Lu Che's warning as she rubbed her chin and continued, "As for acting, soon, you will only be able to play the role of a mother. What should I do? I can already imagine you teaching your children with your hair in a bun." I know, Tongning is famous for her good temper. Today, I told you the truth. I'm sure you won't do anything to me, right? Have we had a conflict in the past? Tongning didn't understand why Song Exin had suddenly provoked her. "No, we've never met before," Song Exin shrugged. "It's just that I'm used to being #1. So, when I arrive at Hairue, I won't just be #2. Let me give you a heads up. Song Exin, our madam has already been in the industry for 10 years, you are still a newcomer. You've been in the industry for 10 years and you've only received 1 award. Song Exin let out a laugh as she waved her hand at the 2 women. "Hurry and go home. I don't want to see your 8-month pregnant belly. Although you are President Mo's lover and it's normal for you to take the best, I will use my abilities to surpass you." Lu Che looked at Tongning anxiously, afraid that she would be angry. But Tongning's calm expression told Lu Che that even if she was angry, it wouldn't be written on her face. "Remember what you said today." "I will remember it clearly." Tongning took a good look at Song Exin and scanned her from head to toe. Song Exin's appearance wasn't bad, but, in the entertainment industry, it wasn't decided by who had the aura. In reality, Song Exin's heart was beating like a drum. Although her words were righteous, she was, after all, in front of the calm Tongning. Tongning had fought all over the world. She wasn't someone that could be intimidated by a few words. Afterwards, Tongning boarded her car and Lu Che got into the driver's seat. The 2 women left through the underground parking lot, leaving Song Exin to light a cigarette. What an interesting woman. Too bad, she's about to give birth. "Madam, don't pay attention to Song Exin. She is indeed talented, but she is too arrogant. The future belongs to the young." "She's right. I'm not young anymore," Tongning said with a sigh. "But you're only 27. 27 years old, she was no longer at the age where she could take risks and play around. Especially after marrying Ting and having a child, The entertainment industry and fighting had unknowingly become a weapon in her hands to protect the people around her. She no longer enjoyed the glory and luxury. Is there really a milk powder commercial for me? Actually, Tongning was a little offended by Song Xian's words. Getting old, this was an illness that was buried deep within a woman's heart. No matter how well they hid it, it still hurt when poked. After all, time could not be reversed. No. Lu Che replied decisively. Tongning let out a gentle laugh. Lu Che was never good at lying. Soon, the couple arrived at Hyatt Regency. As it was already late, Auntie Bai had prepared a hot and nutritious meal for Tongning to return home. Xiaoning, you didn't bring your phone with you. There were several missed calls in the afternoon. Aunt Bai pointed to the bedroom upstairs and said. Tongning grabbed her phone and sat down at the dining table. As soon as she saw Hu Jingjing had called her a few times, she immediately called her back. It had been a long time since the two had spoken. Ning. As soon as she heard Hu Jingjing's voice, Tongning's expression turned serious. She could sense that Hu Jingjing was in a low mood. What happened? Nothing. I was just a little tired from attending a party. I originally wanted to go see you, but you weren't home, Hu Jingjing replied as she pulled herself together. Did you argue with Fang Yu? Tongning asked sensitively. Did you know that Hai Rui recently signed a secret weapon called Song Xian? Hu Jingjing suddenly mentioned. She's a powerful character. What happened? Previously, Fang Yu was in charge of everything related to her. But Fang Yu is a married man, so he has to be careful of me. So, he delegated a lot of things to me. I'm not sure if I'm overthinking things, but I feel like she's very vengeful and I've fallen into a trap, Hu Jingjing said cautiously with a worried tone. This made Tongning's heart skip a beat. Hu Jingjing had already experienced a lot in the industry. If Hu Jingjing still felt something was wrong, then there was definitely something fishy going on. Tell me in detail. Previously, when we were discussing a collaboration, my assistant and the representative from the other party's company met at a hotel. Afterwards, my assistant left for a few minutes, so I didn't take it to heart. But this afternoon, when I was having lunch with Fang Yu found a photo on his phone. I asked Fang Yu about it and he said he received an anonymous letter. Fang Yu can tell the difference. You don't need to take it to heart, Tongning comforted. Plus, you can't use this incident to suspect Song Xian. Song Xian warned me to be careful at the agency. Otherwise, why would I think of her? Be more careful next time, Tongning's voice carried a sense of caution. I'm fine. It's a lot easier to talk about it. Hu Jingjing's surroundings suddenly became a little noisy. I'm going to talk to you later. I'm going to pick up Xiao Yu from school. It's getting late. Be careful on the road. Hu Jingjing's status in Hai Rui was extraordinary. If Song Xian was really ambitious, then Hu Jingjing would definitely be part of her plans. However, Tongning didn't know what Song Xian was capable of. To put her mind at ease, Tongning said to Lu Che, let me have a look at Song Xian's information. Okay, Lu Che nodded. Not long after, Lu Che returned to the agency. Apart from giving Song Xian a verbal warning, he also sent Song Xian's information to Tongning. After dinner, Tongning lay on the sofa and looked through Song Xian's information. It turned out, Song Xian had such a powerful background. She was actually a third-generation celebrity. That night, Mo Ting wasn't around. So, Tongning slept in the living room and had a long nightmare. She dreamed that Song Xian was strangling her neck and kicking her stomach. It didn't take long before Tongning awoke from her nightmare. But, she was already in bed. Mo Ting had kept his promise and was by her side the next morning. Tongning immediately hugged him and tried her best to calm herself down. I don't think I'm dreaming. Silly girl. Mo Ting gently stroked the back of her head and hugged her tightly in his arms. Hurry, it's time to wake up and eat breakfast. Tongning lifted the blanket and got ready to get out of bed. At this time, Mo Ting said in a low voice, something happened to Hu Jingjing. Chapter 668. What happened? Tongning asked suspiciously. We just spoke on the phone last night. Don't get too excited. Ting held onto Tongning as he handed her his phone. The news had already been released. Supermodel Hu Jingjing had been bitten by a vicious dog while trying to protect her daughter. As a result, both her legs were in danger of being amputated. The incident happened so suddenly that Tongning found it hard to accept. Could it be someone with the same name? Hu Jingjing is currently at the hospital. I'll take you there in a moment. Ting knew she wanted to personally confirm Hu Jingjing's condition, so he took the initiative to suggest. Waiting. I haven't recovered yet. Tongning sat down on the edge of the bed and once again picked up her phone to look at the entertainment news. It was an accident. The victim has already been found. She raised a vicious dog and didn't wear a leash, so. Tongning digested the information for a moment. She didn't feel good because of the incident that Hu Jingjing mentioned to her yesterday. But the news had already explained the entire incident and confirmed that it was indeed an accident. The victim had already prepared compensation. Compensation? A model's career had been destroyed just like that. How was she going to compensate? What if Hu Jingjing could never walk again? Seeing Ting's serious expression, Ting knelt down and held Tongning's face in his hands as he comforted. Yu will arrange her work properly and try his best to minimize the impact on her. Okay, Tongning nodded. Tongning nodded her head. After breakfast, she and Ting headed to the hospital Hu Jingjing was at. As the incident had happened last night, the surgery had already been completed. So, Hu Jingjing was still unconscious and had yet to wake up. Yu hugged Yu to sleep on the sofa. The father and son were definitely exhausted. Daddy, we have a guest. Yu woke up in shock as she grabbed onto Yu's sleeve. Seeing Tongning, Yu immediately sat up from the sofa. I barely managed to save her legs, but there will be scars on her legs. This is a small matter. I don't think she'll be able to walk on the runway again. As soon as Yu heard Yu's words, she burst into tears in self-blame. Mommy, you ended up like this because you wanted to save me. Hu Jingjing was awoken by the sound of crying. She opened her eyes and stared at the white ceiling for quite some time before she remembered what had happened the night before. Yu. Mom, I'm here. Yu immediately ran over. Seeing that Yu was fine, Hu Jingjing finally relaxed. Tongning quickly approached Hu Jingjing and looked at her. I think you won't be able to walk the show for a while. You will end up with scars on your legs. Is that so? Hu Jingjing's face was expressionless, but Tongning could hear the sound of her heart breaking. Although she had been complaining about not leaving and not being a model, when it finally came time to leave, the disappointment and unwillingness almost overwhelmed her. Jingjing. Yu also walked over and held her hand. I won't give up. Forget it, Yu is fine and I'm fine. Tongning, hurry home. What if you get infected? Don't joke around. Hu Jingjing tried to drive the people in the ward away. Hurry up and leave. Don't make me feel worse. Tongning nodded her head. She knew she needed to give her some space, so she did not insist. However, on the way home, she received a message from Hu Jingjing. Don't worry about me. Actually, other than being worried, Tongning also felt that life was unpredictable. They had only spoken on the phone last night, but today. Above all, no matter how much Yu and Hai Rui helped Hu Jingjing, being injured meant she had lost all opportunities to advance. The industry was filled with people coming and going every day. By the time Hu Jingjing recovered, who would remember her? Jingjing is such a proud person. You need to leave a path of retreat for her. Ting was speechless. He simply wrapped his arm around Tongning's shoulder and let her lean on his shoulder. A sunny afternoon at the Song family residence. Song Exen had just woken up to find her manager waiting for her in the living room. Everything has been done. It was a spectacular show. This manager wasn't someone from Hai Rui, she had been brought along by Song Exen. The two had been extremely close since they were students. So, after Song Exen debuted, she also followed her into the entertainment industry. I've overestimated Tongning and her gang. Song Exen sat down on the sofa with her messy hair. Strangling them to death isn't as difficult as you think. Hu Jingjing is easy to deal with. No one knew the reason the dog pounced on her daughter was because she had a small bone hidden on her body. But what about Tongning? Song Xen rested her chin on her hand as she turned her back to the sun. Let me think about it. Tongning isn't someone that a dog can deal with? The child. Song Xen suddenly remembered. Seeing how much Tongning cares about this child, if she suddenly loses it, what do you think she'll do? But the child is almost 8 months old. When my mother took my father's mistress to get an abortion, nothing happened to her. It was just a mental blow, Song Xian replied. In her heart, as long as the child wasn't born yet, it wasn't considered a life. But we have no chance to make a move, her assistant said awkwardly. How could we not? Tongning and her mother-in-law are like fire and water. Isn't this the perfect time to get rid of her with a borrowed knife? Song Xian hinted at Hua Wenfeng. But hasn't Hua Wenfeng been tortured badly enough by Tongning? It's because she was tortured badly that her mother-in-law has a lot of hatred. We can make use of it, Song Xian said lazily. Song Xian said lazily. Actually, this matter is very simple. All you need to do is to take action. What do you mean? Her assistant was a little confused. You are now a part of Hai Rui, so you naturally know what's going on. All you need to do is make something up and let Hua Wenfeng hear about it. But what can I make up? For example, after the child is born, we can get Hua Wenfeng to be a maid and take care of the child. Otherwise, we can kick her out of Beijing. Or, if the child is born with a hidden health problem, we can remove Hua Wenfeng's organs to make up for it. Didn't the news mention this before? Hua Wenfeng claims that Tongning's child will be unhealthy. Her assistant looked at Song Xen for a few seconds before she finally pointed at her and said, "You're still as evil as ever." That's why we're invincible, Song Xian scoffed. I hate it when people stand in front of me. I'm doing this to reduce Tongning's burden. She should be thanking me. Although her assistant shivered, she still followed Song Xian's instructions. After all, they had worked together for many years. So, she understood Song Xian's temper better than anyone else. Her target was Tongning's child. But Tongning valued this child more than her own life. What if she failed? Chapter 669. Although Hu Jingjing's bite had already been confirmed to be an accident, Tongning still had a lot of questions in her mind. For example, Song Xen, who had suddenly appeared, and for example, this sudden incident. Tongning had looked through Song Xian's information. Actually, to say that she suddenly appeared out of nowhere was an unfair accusation. Because Tongning didn't know about it, she rarely paid attention to it. Most of the popular songs that topped the Japanese and Korean charts were written by Song Xen. She was extremely good at writing songs. As for her editor, she was even better. After all, she was a famous author and was later invited to work on TV dramas and film adaptations. Now, she was publicly acknowledged as a talented woman in the scriptwriting industry. Apparently, her voice wasn't bad either. A talented woman like this was naturally Hai Rui's target. But, although Song Xian was talented, she was also very arrogant. Half of this was because of her family background and the other half was because of her talent. After looking through Song Xian's work, Tongning did not say a word for quite some time. She then contacted Fong Yu in secret. Have you checked the surveillance footage of the apartment? Yes, Fong Yu replied in a low voice because Hu Jingjing had just fallen asleep. Can you let me have a look? Tongning suggested. Do you think there's something fishy going on? Fong Yu suddenly understood what Tongning was trying to say. No, I've already looked through the footage multiple times. This incident was indeed an accident. Just let me have a look, Tongning insisted. It wasn't that she doubted Fong Yu's abilities or his concern for Hu Jingjing. It was because they were husband and wife that Tongning was worried that Fong Yu would be overly concerned. Fong Yu couldn't argue with Tongning, so he sent the surveillance footage to Tongning. If you discover anything new, let me know as soon as possible. Even though I feel like you're overthinking things. Whether she was overthinking things or not, she would have to watch it first. After receiving the footage, Tongning did not play it on her computer. Instead, she watched it carefully on the projector in the study room. In the footage, Hu Jingjing did not drive her car directly into the underground parking lot. Instead, she handed it over to the security. The real reason was because Xiaoyu did not like the smell of the underground parking lot and was afraid of the darkness. Hu Jingjing held onto Xiaoyu's hand as they entered the apartment. But, just as she turned around and entered the password to enter the living room, an adult bull terrier suddenly pounced over and bit Xiaoyu's jacket. Hu Jingjing reacted quickly as she removed Xiaoyu's jacket and threw it at the bulldog. However, the bulldog loosened its grip on the jacket and pounced on her again. Hu Jingjing had no choice but to carry Xiaoyu in her arms as the bulldog angrily bit her left leg. Dog owners should all know that bull terriers were actually a very ferocious breed. Moreover, once they bit down on something, they would not let go. They were very vicious. Tongning watched the video again and again. This was indeed an accident, because the dog's owner had appeared so quickly. He was so shocked that he immediately called the ambulance and sent Hu Jingjing to the hospital. It wasn't foreseen. But the thing that confused Tongning the most was why the dog suddenly pounced on Xiaoyu. Domestic dogs were not as unstable as wild or stray dogs. Even if they were fierce, they would not suddenly go crazy. So, why did it keep chasing after Xiaoyu? Afterwards, Tongning gave Fengyu a phone call. Do you still have the clothes that Xiaoyu was wearing when she got into the accident? I've already thrown it away, Fengyu replied. There were so many bloodstains and Xiaoyu is only 3 years old. I'm afraid it will traumatize her. After hearing this, Tongning let out a sigh of relief. In that case, forget it. What did you find out? I don't understand why the dog pounced on Xiaoyu as soon as it appeared and refused to let go. Right now, I can only think of 2 possibilities. First, Xiaoyu must have provoked this dog. However, she just returned home and it was Jingjing who took care of her the entire time. So, this hypothesis is not valid. So, the second possibility is that Xiaoyu has something that this dog wants. Think back carefully and see if you can think of anything. Fengyu couldn't think of anything. Because, by the time he was notified, Xiaoyu had already been treated with the help of the doctors. He directly threw Xiaoyu's dirty clothes into the bin outside the operating theater. But in order to verify his theory, Fengyu left the hospital room and went to the bin outside the operating theater to look for Xiaoyu's clothes. Luckily, they had not been cleaned. Looking at Hu Jingjing's bloodstains, Fengyu's eyes turned red. But he held back his emotions as he rummaged through the clothes. Finally, he found a piece of bone in Xiaoyu's pocket. The bone. Why would Xiaoyu's clothes have something like this? If the bull terrier smelled the scent of Xiaoyu's bones as soon as she entered the apartment, then everything would make sense. Afterwards, Fengyu returned Tongning's phone call. I found a piece of bone in Xiaoyu's pocket. It's about the size of a thumb. Let's start investigating. Who did this piece of bone belong to? But I don't understand. If someone wanted to hurt Jingjing, why would they target Xiaoyu? What's so hard to understand? Directly targeting Hu Jingjing would be too obvious. But if Hu Jingjing was hurt because of Xiaoyu, then everything makes sense, Tongning explained. A lot of children's actions can't be understood by adults. Even if they did something wrong, you can't blame them. It's obvious how evil the culprit's intentions are. As Tongning said these words, she already had a target in mind. But she needed to verify it. At this time, Tongning had no idea that the culprit had also placed its target on her. It was simply a competition to see who was faster and smarter. After Tongning finished watching the video, she looked down at Mo Ting, who had fallen asleep with his arms wrapped around her. He leaned against the sofa, protectively protecting her with a tired expression on his face. Tongning knew, in order to stay at home with her for the next 2 months, Mo Ting had been working hard to complete his workload. So, when she received the video, even though he was accompanying her, not long after, Mo Ting had already fallen asleep. In reality, there were some things that she didn't need his company for, but, however, Mo Ting never cared how tired he was or how exhausted he was. I've finished watching the video. Let's go back to our room to sleep. Although she couldn't bear to wake him up, she couldn't bring a grown man back to their room. Mo Ting opened his eyes. As soon as he saw Tongning, he stood up and carried her in his arms. Did you notice anything? I just want you to go to sleep, Tongning said as her heart ached. Chapter 670. With this clue, Feng Yu went to look for the owner of the bull terrier to find out more about it. As the chain had broken off, they didn't know what had happened. Plus, this bull terrier had a record of biting people in the past. However, it was still small at the time, so it was only a light bite. As for why Xiao Yu had bones in her body, Feng Yu had asked her. But Xiao Yu was still young, so she definitely wouldn't be able to answer him. Afterwards, Feng Yu went to look for the kindergarten teacher. According to the teacher's recollection, the teacher's menu that afternoon indeed included pork ribs. As for why the ribs ended up in Xiao Yu's pocket, it was because children sometimes played with them. So, anything was possible. After hearing his teacher's explanation, Feng Yu's desire to find out the truth was instantly extinguished. Perhaps, Tongning was just being paranoid. Most importantly, with Hu Jingjing's current situation, all he wanted to do was stay by her side. He could only blame himself for not protecting Hu Jingjing. After hearing Feng Yu's answer, Tongning remained silent for quite some time. Although she didn't want to give up, since Feng Yu had already done his research, there was no point in continuing to dwell on it. However, in her subconscious, she always felt that this matter had something to do with that person. It had already been a few days since Hu Jingjing's incident. During these few days, the media had been updating their reports every day, draining away the last bit of Hu Jingjing's popularity. Afterwards, they were attracted by new news, and from then on, there was no more news about Hu Jingjing. It was difficult to rise up in the entertainment industry, but it was extremely easy to drown someone. Seeing the runway show that belonged to Hu Jingjing and Hu Jingjing's endorsement now belonged to someone else, Tongning's heart felt like it was being roasted by a furnace as it heated up bit by bit. But there was nothing she could do. In order to leave Hu Jingjing with a path of retreat, over the past few days, Tongning had made a lot of phone calls on behalf of Hu Jingjing. She had called TQ's Lin Weissen, the famous French designer Foles, and many other business partners. However, even though the woman agreed to help, Foles told her, "Ning, no one can be anyone else's savior. No matter how much your heart aches for her, she still needs to stand up on her own. There's nothing anyone can do." Tongning had always known this principle. In the end, she could only smile bitterly. "I was too stubborn." Perhaps, because of the pressure Song Xian gave her, she couldn't help but worry about Hu Jingjing and herself. As for Song Xian, after winning the screenwriting award, she also won the new music award. Her popularity skyrocketed. Hence, she tightened her grip on the script. When a woman reached this age, would the sense of security in her heart really disappear step by step? It had already been a few days since Song Xian came up with her plan, but her assistant had not put it aside. Instead, she spent a lot of time trying to understand Hua Wenfeng's schedule. She understood that in order to succeed, she needed the right timing. Because she understood the importance of timing, Song Xian's assistant had been hiding around Hua Wenfeng, waiting for the right opportunity. Ever since Hua Wenfeng had been slapped in the face, it had been a long time since she had caused trouble for Tongning. Although she was very unwilling, she had no choice but to give up and devote herself to research for the time being, as the people were cursing her and the old man was exerting his power. On this particular day, Hua Wenfeng was having tea in a cafe with a few of her colleagues. As they chatted about Tongning, they secretly observed Hua Wenfeng's expression. Hua Wenfeng's expression was cold the entire time. She didn't want to comment on Tongning's matter. After enduring for quite some time, she finally excused herself to go to the bathroom and temporarily escaped from the center of the discussion. However, just as she was about to leave the bathroom with her bag in hand, she bumped into a young woman walking towards her. The woman had short hair and a tall and skinny figure. "Sorry," Hua Wenfeng apologized and turned to leave. But the woman seemed to recognize her as she pointed at her. "Are you Tongning's mother-in-law?" Hua Wenfeng's expression turned even uglier. She thought the woman was going to mock her, so she turned to leave. But not only did the woman not mock her, she even responded in a friendly manner, "Hello, Antich. Hello, I still have something to do, so I'll be leaving first." After speaking, Hua Wenfeng turned to leave. The woman did not force her. She nodded her head and sent her off with a smile. However, before Hua Wenfeng could take a few steps, the woman caught up to her and tugged on her sleeve. She said awkwardly, "Auntie, actually, I've heard a few rumors at the agency. I'm not sure if they're true." "What rumors?" Hua Wenfeng asked. "I'm not sure if I should tell you." The woman deliberately kept Hua Wenfeng in suspense. "Go ahead, I won't blame you." Hua Wenfeng was already prepared to accept the bad things that Tongning had told her. But, after a moment of thought, the woman leaned over to Hua Wenfeng's ear and whispered everything she had heard at the agency. In the end, she even emphasized, "Auntie, you know Hai Rue's rules. We can't reveal the agency's secrets to anyone. I originally didn't want to tell you either, but since I happened to run into you today, I decided to tell you based on my conscience. I hope you can help me keep this a secret." In reality, Hua Wenfeng's face had already turned from red to furious. She never imagined that Tongning would be so evil. She actually wanted her organs? "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone," Hua Wenfeng promised confidently. "Okay, you better make a decision as soon as possible." The woman looked at Hua Wenfeng sympathetically and even patted the back of her hand to comfort her. Hua Wenfeng had no idea when the woman left. She simply held onto the wall as her body trembled. It took her quite some time to regain her senses. Since the bitch wanted to go this far, she couldn't just sit around and wait for her death. After all, she couldn't wait for the child to be born. If it became disabled, she might actually try to take advantage of her body. Above all, she couldn't tell Father Mo about this. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to do anything. Father Mo would simply think that she was exaggerating. The most important thing right now was to get rid of the child in Tongning's stomachs. No, she needed to think of a foolproof plan. Because of this, Hua Wenfeng began to secretly observe Tongning's daily routine. She noticed that every Friday, Tongning would go to the hospital for a checkup. Apart from that, she never stepped out of the house. As for the slut, she was in charge of Tongning's daily life. Most importantly, whenever Tongning went for a checkup, she would bring her bodyguards with her. It seemed this was her only chance. As long as she could sneak into the house and frame the bitch, she would be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Chapter 671. Apart from this, she also carefully studied the surveillance cameras around her. She knew which surveillance cameras were located in which areas and which corners she could avoid. Apart from this, she also hid in the laboratory and studied the ingredients of the medicine to make sure nothing went wrong. Over the past few days, Tongning had been feeling uneasy. She kept feeling like someone was spying on her life and monitoring her every move. Auntie Bai said that because she was getting closer to giving birth, she became more sensitive to her surroundings. Tongning thought about it for a moment and realized that Auntie Bai's words made sense. Ever since Hu Jingjing's accident, you haven't had a day of peace. If there's anything, you need to talk to Mr. Mo immediately. It's best if you don't keep it to yourself. After hearing Auntie Bai's words, Tongning nodded her head and smiled. I've already told him everything I can. But, when a woman is pregnant, there are certain feelings that a man can't experience. That's true, Auntie Bai nodded her head. Back when I was pregnant with Xiaoxing, I often felt like I was easily angered. I don't know how Xiaoxing's father offended me, but he would constantly place his arm in front of me and make me bite it to vent my anger. When it came to Qin Xingyan's father, all Tongning knew was that he had gone missing when Qin Xingyan was very young. But, Bai Lihua had never mentioned a word about him. Xingyan's father. He went missing while he was an extra on set. At that time, Xiaoxing was only 6 years old and has never returned. Let's not talk about him. Tongning didn't have the habit of getting to the bottom of things. She understood that it was a sore spot for Bai Lihua. So, the topic of Qin Xingyan's father came to an end. Are you going for a prenatal checkup tomorrow? What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. Anything you make is delicious, Tongning comforted. Tongning had no idea that this prenatal checkup would become a disaster for her. After all, the person that was spying on her had already made preparations. The next afternoon, Mo Ting took Tongning out for a prenatal checkup. As usual, he brought bodyguards with him. At this time, Bai Lihua walked the couple to the front door and returned home. It didn't take long before a thick smell of smoke drifted through the garden, triggering the villa's alarm system. The villa's security guards immediately searched for the source of the fire and knocked on the door of their home. After a long time, Aunt Bai finally opened the door. Seeing that it was a security guard, she asked in confusion, "What happened?" "Madam, the garden is on fire, and the fire is quite big. For your safety, please leave the villa immediately." Bai Lihua froze for a moment. She had an extreme fear of fire. Then wait for me to lock the door." "Madam, you can leave first. We need to check the villa for any hidden dangers," the security guard said as he pushed Bai Lihua to his colleague. Bai Lihua was completely dumbfounded. She was led away from a safe location by the security guards. However, just as the security guards were about to enter the house to check for any hidden dangers, a figure suddenly snuck into the house and hid in the storeroom without making a sound. About half an hour later, the people in the storeroom heard the conversation between the security guard and Bai Lihua. "Madam, I'm so sorry. The fire has already been contained. Luckily, it hasn't spread. You can go home in peace." "Have you found the cause of the fire?" Bai Lihua asked. "Why did the back of my house catch on fire?" "Don't worry, we will investigate the cause in detail. As soon as we have a result, we will let you know." Bai Lihua nodded her head and did not pursue the matter any further. After entering the house, she calmed down a little and prepared a nutritious meal for Tongning as usual. 4 p.m. Mo Ting drove Tongning home before returning to Hairui. However, as soon as Tongning entered the house, she was immediately assaulted by an unpleasant smell. "Auntie Bai, did something burn in the house?" "No, there was a fire outside this afternoon." Auntie Bai walked out of the kitchen and explained as she wiped her hands. "Are you hungry? Sit down, the food will be ready soon. Take your time. I can still handle it." Tongning leaned against the sofa. Tongning leaned back on the sofa. The child in her stomach was now close to 8 months old. Daily activities were starting to take a toll on her. Bai Lihua could tell that she was tired, so she smiled. "Yes, it's normal for a first pregnancy. Just wait for the second one." "I haven't thought that far ahead." Tongning held the back of her head with one hand and rubbed her stomach with the other. As for the unhealthiness and abnormalities that Hua Wenfeng mentioned, they did not exist in the prenatal tests. Also, Mo Ting liked daughters, while she wanted a son. "Let's plan for the future." Bai Lihua placed a bowl of delicious chicken soup in front of Tongning. "I've already cleaned up the oil. It won't make you gain any weights." Tongning looked at Bai Lihua and felt a little touched. After all, Bai Lihua was Mo Ting's mother. Just based on this point alone, Hua Wenfeng couldn't compare. At least, Bai Lihua had always done her best for her. Tongning enjoyed the love as she received the bowl of chicken soup from Bai Lihua. But as soon as she took a sip, she realized the taste of the soup was a little different than usual. "What's wrong?" Bai Lihua asked as soon as Tongning stopped. "Mom, it tastes weird." Bai Lihua took the bowl from Tongning's hands and had a taste. Her expression immediately changed. "Not good, there's a chemical smell. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Tongning nodded her head. "No. I'm worried. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup." Bai Lihua studied biology, so she was naturally sensitive to drugs. So, she immediately helped Tongning up and instructed the bodyguards to take a sample of the chicken soup to the hospital for testing. At that moment, Tongning was not as anxious as Bai Lihua. So, after a checkup at the hospital, she did not notice any symptoms until the results of the chicken soup were released. "Why is there so much quinidine in this soup?" As soon as she heard the name quinidine, Bai Lihua's face turned pale. Others might not know, but she was well aware that something like quinidine didn't normally appear in people's lives. It was a medicine used to treat the heart. But, if a pregnant woman took it, it would either cause her to have a miscarriage or affect the heart of the fetus. What was even more unbelievable was, how did something like this end up in her chicken soup? In fact, Tongning had even taken 2 sips. Thinking of this, Bai Lihua trembled in fear. What should she do? What should Tongning do? What about her grandson? After receiving the results of the test, Bai Lihua's legs turned to jelly. All she could do was pull out her phone and give Ting a phone call. "Mr. Mo, I'm sorry. Please come to the hospital immediately." As soon as he heard the words hospital, Ting's first reaction was to think of Tongning. So, he immediately put down the work at hand and rushed over to the hospital. At this moment, Tongning was still being examined in the hospital room. As soon as Bai Lihua saw Ting, she immediately pounced over and sobbed. "Tongning accidentally took a forbidden drug. I'm afraid something will happen to her." Just as Ting was about to question her, the doctor stepped out and said, "It's not as serious as you think." Chapter 672. Family members don't need to worry. She only ingested a small amount of quinidine. It won't have too much of an effect on the pregnant woman and her child. That's fortunate. The doctor removed his white gloves and looked at Bai Lihua curiously. Logically speaking, something like quinidine shouldn't be available on the market. Plus, it's not something that normal patients can use. So, how could it appear in the chicken soup that a pregnant woman drinks? Ting looked at Bai Lihua. Bai Lihua shook her head cluelessly. "I don't know." Bai Lihua had no idea when the medicine had been placed in the chicken soup. "Mr. Mo, please trust me. I really didn't want to hurt Tongning or the child." Ting's handsome face tensed up as his expression turned cold. Ting's handsome face tensed up as his expression turned cold. But he still had a basic level of trust towards Bai Lihua. So, he simply nodded his head. The pregnant woman's condition is relatively stable. Family members, please go in and have a look. After hearing from the doctor, Ting was about to enter the room. But, just as he took a step forward, the nurse anxiously rushed out and held on to the doctor. "Doctor, something's not right with the patients." As soon as he heard the word, "not right," Ting immediately rushed in. But, the nurse quickly stopped him. "Sir, you can't go in right now. Otherwise, you will delay the patient's treatment. Get lost." Ting moved the nurse away and quickly entered the room. Seeing Tongning's pale face, he stretched out his hand and held on to it. "Don't be afraid, I'm by your side. If anything happens to you and the child, I will make sure everyone involved is buried with you. After that, I will go and accompany you." Even though they weren't on set and words like these were only suitable to be heard in books or ancient times, the medical staff did not dare to think that Ting was lying. "I'll be fine," Tongning said as she held onto Ting's hand tightly. Perhaps due to the pain, Tongning's palms were covered in cold sweat. "Nothing will happen to me, Ting, don't worry." "Doctor, the pregnant woman is having contractions. We need to prepare for surgery immediately," the nurse reported to the doctor as she observed Tongning's condition. "It seems I underestimated the effects of quinidine on the patient. Hurry." Bai Lihua was completely shocked as she stood anxiously outside the room, not knowing what else to do. Meanwhile, Ting had no choice but to be pushed out of the room as he watched Tongning being pushed into the delivery room. "Ting, although you didn't drug her, what about your responsibility to take care of her?" Ting's voice was extremely cold as his voice trembled. In his 33 years of life, he had never been so afraid, and he had never been so helpless. Bai Lihua was stunned for a moment before she lowered her head in self-blame. "It's all my fault. Think about it carefully." Which part is the problem? Ting did not continue to vent his anger on his own people. Because, when it came to taking care of them, he obviously had a bigger responsibility. Soon, the doctor stepped out of the delivery room. Following closely behind was Tongning's bed. It was a false alarm. It was just a fake contraction. After the doctor said this, he let out a sigh of relief. "I suggest that she stay in the hospital for 2 days and observe more. If something like that happens again, if the pregnant woman really wants to give birth prematurely, she can be treated in time." After hearing the doctor's words, Ting looked back at Tongning in the hospital bed. His heart ached so much he felt numb. If he could stop the pregnancy, he would rather not have the child than let Tongning suffer so much. As soon as Bai Lihua heard that it was a fake contraction, she began to cry from exhaustion. "Family, don't worry. The pregnant woman is currently in a stable condition. It shouldn't happen again for a while." In reality, the reason why the doctor said these words was to comfort Mo Ting. He could sense the ruthlessness and coldness emanating from this man. He was filled with a dangerous aura. Afterwards, Tongning was sent into the hospital room. Mo Ting removed his jacket and threw it to one side. He then sat on the edge of the bed and held onto Tongning's hand tightly. I think she's Tongning. Shoo, do you want to die? Can't you see how scary President Mo's gaze is? Two nurses whispered as they passed by the door. At this time, Mo Ting finally recovered from his worry and pulled out his phone to give Lu Che a phone call. Investigate everyone that entered Hyatt Regency from yesterday to today. Don't let a single person escape. Even if they're a ghost, find them. In reality, Lu Che had no idea what was happening. President, I don't quite understand. Mo Ting held his forehead and calmed down for an entire minute. On the other side of the phone, Lu Che did not dare to hang up either. Come to the hospital first. As soon as Lu Che heard the word hospital, he could roughly guess that Mo Ting had abandoned the meeting and left. Only Tongning could make him forget everything around him. It didn't take long before Lu Che arrived at the hospital and found Tongning's room. After hearing about what happened from Auntie Bai, Lu Che was extremely shocked. Someone was brave enough to break into a house and commit a crime. Bring me 2 sets of clothes. Also, bring me a person. Who is this person? It was none other than Hua Wenfeng. Apart from this, he couldn't think of a second possibility. Who else could sneak into his home without anyone noticing and was familiar with the drug quinidine? Normally, he would turn a blind eye because Tongning fought to deal with it and he doted on his woman. But it didn't mean that just because he didn't say anything, he allowed someone to do as they pleased. Hua Wenfeng had prepared for so long, but in Mo Ting's eyes, it was meaningless. That night, Lu Che arrived at Hyatt Regency and waited outside Hua Wenfeng and Father Mo's home for quite some time. As soon as Hua Wenfeng saw Lu Che, she pretended to be calm. Assistant Lu, I think you've come to the wrong place. Mo Ting's home is not here. Whether I've come to the wrong place or not, I'll ask Ms. Hua to come with me and you'll know, Lu Che said impolitely. The president wants to see you. Since when did Mo Ting become so rude to his own mother? Father Mo asked angrily. Did that woman teach you to do this? Lu Che knew that the two women were extremely shameless, so he gestured for the bodyguards to make a move. Hua Wenfeng's expression changed as she turned to look at Father Mo for help. But Lu Che held him back and said, to avoid harming the innocent, it's best that Professor Mo wait here. Lu Che, bring the woman back here. Lu Che turned around, boarded his car and drove off with Hua Wenfeng. Father Mo was naturally afraid that Hua Wenfeng would be put at a disadvantage, so he immediately drove off and followed. The hospital corridor was long and cold. The pungent smell of disinfectant filled the air. But it didn't take long before the sound of Hua Wenfeng's struggling could be heard. In order not to disturb Tongning, Mo Ting walked out of the hospital room and sat down on a chair. He then turned to look at Hua Wenfeng with a meaningful gaze. Seeing this, Hua Wenfeng began to tremble in fear. How did you drug her? Chapter 673. What medicine? Hua Wenfeng pretended not to know. Quinidine, Mo Ting spat out. These 3 words left Mo Ting's mouth. His voice was deep, dangerous and, of course, threatening. Although Hua Wenfeng was frightened by Mo Ting's reaction, she forced herself to remain calm and denied, I have no idea what you are talking about. Mo Ting, is this how you treat your mother? Let's put my mother aside for now. Let me ask you, do you know about quinidine? Hua Wenfeng was forced to look into Mo Ting's eyes. She was so frightened by his murderous gaze that she did not dare to move an inch. In reality, there was already a voice in her heart telling her that if she continued to hold on, she would be chopped into pieces. But there was no way she was going to admit it. I study biology, of course I know about quinidine. Mo Ting, what do you mean by asking this? Were you the one who started the fire this afternoon? What fire? What are you talking about? Mo Ting, you must at least tell me why you are treating me this way. Hua Wenfeng guessed, but Mo Ting did not have any evidence. So, she calmed down and her tone became more confident. Why are you wearing flat shoes? Mo Ting looked down at Hua Wenfeng's feet with a mocking gaze as he changed the topic. Because it's comfortable, Hua Wenfeng replied straightforwardly. You're covered in mud because you've been in the garden. In that case, all I need to do is look for muddy spots in the house and I'll be able to find footprints, Mo Ting deduced. I'm guessing even until the day you die, you won't admit to it. I've never been to the garden. Did I say it was the back garden? Mo Ting immediately grasped the main point in Hua Wenfeng's words. I can't explain it to you. I'm currently in your hands, so you can do whatever you want. Hua Wenfeng knew that the more she said, the more mistakes she would make. She also understood that Mo Ting was a very cautious person, so she purposely kept her mouth shut. She refused to believe that Mo Ting could actually find her footprints in the house. It didn't take long before Father Mo arrived at the hospital. Seeing Hua Wenfeng in front of Mo Ting, he immediately ran over and gestured for the bodyguards to let go. Mo Ting, are you crazy? Mo Ting couldn't be bothered talking to Father Mo, so he simply raised his chin at Lu Che. Lu Che then walked over and pulled Father Mo away. Mo Ting, are you a beast? What are you going to do to your parents? What are you going to do to me? Mo Ting asked. You can leave, but this woman, I will make her pay tenfold for what she has suffered. Are you crazy? What does that slut's suffering have to do with your mother? Just because he heard the word bitch, Mo Ting's voice turned even colder. 20 times? What kind of medicine did that bitch give you? 30 times? Is that bitch? 40 times? Father Mo finally realized he couldn't scold Tongning. So, he immediately changed from the slut to the woman. I can tell you have been charmed by that woman. Let go of your mother. Buchit. This time, Mo Ting did not even want to say another word as he instructed Lu Che to send the man away. Seeing this, Hua Wenfeng finally began to panic as her hands began to tremble. What are you going to do to your mother because of that woman? You bastard! I'm going to call the police. After speaking, Father Mo pulled out his phone. At this time, Mo Ting made the call before him. Bureau Chief Ren? I am Mo Ting. My wife was poisoned and almost lost her life. Please organize an investigation. After hanging up the phone, Mo Ting lifted his head and looked at Hua Wenfeng. He simply asked, how long do you think the police will take to solve this case? Hua Wenfeng froze in shock, unable to move. At this time, Mo Ting gestured for the bodyguards to let go of Hua Wenfeng. But as soon as Hua Wenfeng regained her freedom, she could not move. She never expected Mo Ting to call the police. She thought that Mo Ting wouldn't do anything out of consideration for his mother-son relationship. But she never expected him to be so heartless. Wenfeng, let's go. Why aren't you leaving? Father Mo anxiously ran over to hold onto Hua Wenfeng's hand. But Hua Wenfeng pushed his hand away and threw herself in front of Mo Ting. Mo Ting, son, I didn't do it on purpose. Please let me go this time. I really didn't do it on purpose. I was simply blinded by greed. Mo Ting did not move. He simply tilted his head slightly. I gave you a chance? How can you call that a chance? You were the one who didn't want it. Hua Wenfeng was so anxious that she completely disregarded her identity as she knelt in front of Mo Ting. Mom, please don't call the police. I don't want to go to jail. Wenfeng? Seeing this, Father Mo was surprised. Are you saying that you were the one that poisoned that woman? I was just being silly. Hubby, I really didn't do it on purpose. Old Mo, you need to save me. Father Mo finally understood why Mo Ting was so angry, so he sighed. His tone was no longer as forceful as before. In fact, it sounded like he was trying to persuade Mo Ting. Look, this is your mother. It's not nice to see so many people coming and going. Just forgive her this one time. Nothing happened to Tongning either. What if something happened? Even if something happened, Wenfeng would still be your mother. You can't send your mother to jail, right? In other words, Hua Wenfeng could hurt others, but if someone else tried to hurt her, they would definitely suffer 1,000 cuts. After hearing Father Mo's words, Mo Ting's lips suddenly curved upwards. Not only do I want to send her to jail, I also want her to suffer. Mo Ting. Before you protect her like this, you should take a good look at her and see if she is the wife that you've married. As soon as these words left his mouth, everyone froze, including Bai Lihua. What did Ting mean? You should first get to know who your wife is before you ask me for her. After speaking, Ting stood up from his seat like a king looking down on the world. All of a sudden, everyone had their own thoughts. Of course, the scariest one was Ting. After all, Hua Wenfeng and Father didn't know how angry Ting was, what he wanted to do and how angry he needed to be. Ting, son, stop calling the police. I can do whatever you want, but don't call the police. Even at a time like this, Hua Wenfeng still had the cheek to call him son. Ting fell silent and did not say another word. Meanwhile, the people behind him stood quietly behind him because of his imposing manner. They stood like this for an hour or two. Until Father couldn't help but ask, "How long are you going to keep doing this?" "Until my wife wakes up," Ting replied coldly. "Don't you think you should give her an explanation?" Ting, is that woman the most important thing in your heart?" Ting laughed in ridicule. He felt that Father Mo's question was a little childish. "It's not the first time I've disregarded my family." Chapter 674. While Ting and Father were arguing, Hua Wenfeng took the opportunity to slowly retreat. While no one was paying attention, she took off her shoes and secretly threw them into the bin. But Ting did not give her the chance. "What are you trying to do?" The bodyguard grabbed onto Hua Wenfeng and snatched the shoes out of her hands. "Slander. This is all slander, Ting. This was obviously done by your bodyguard. How dare you try to slander me? I didn't do anything. I am innocent." Everyone was shocked by Hua Wenfeng's actions. She was so sincere in her apology that they thought she had realized the consequences of her actions. Who would have thought she was simply playing another trick? Previously, Ting had ripped off her shoes because she was careless. Now that her shoes had someone else's fingerprints on them, they could no longer be used as evidence. As for the other places in the house where Hua Wenfeng's fingerprints were found, she could easily deny that they were left behind while she was living here. The bodyguard was dumbfounded. He never expected Hua Wenfeng to be so disgusting. Ting watched coldly as Hua Wenfeng put on an act. He simply grabbed onto her shirt and said in a low but dangerous voice, "You are disturbing Tongning. If you make another sound, I will make sure you will never be able to speak again." Father immediately ran over and separated the couple. He then shielded Hua Wenfeng behind him. But, compared to his previous intense reaction, he was a lot calmer. He had personally witnessed Hua Wenfeng admit her mistakes and deny everything. This was completely different from the wife in his heart. She was like a stranger to him, like he didn't know her at all. "Hubby, Ting is trying to frame me and his mother." "Shut up, you're making too much noise." Bai Lihua, who had been standing at the back, couldn't stand Hua Wenfeng's drama anymore. So, she stepped out and said, "I never believed that someone like you existed in this world. But after seeing you today, I suddenly feel like I was blind. This is the family's business. What does it have to do with you?" Father asked impatiently as he tilted his head. "Shun, you are a good-for-nothing." Father couldn't stand it anymore as he raised his hand at Bai Lihua. As soon as Bai Lihua saw this, although she was wearing a mask, the ridicule in her eyes could not be concealed. To say that you are useless is an understatement. You are simply blind. Father did not make a move, but Hua Wenfeng directly removed Bai Lihua's mask. Seeing Bai Lihua's festering face, she laughed. "Isn't this just an ugly monster?" Ting did not participate in the argument. He directly entered Tongning's room because she had already woken up. So, the reason why he left the bodyguards behind was to protect Bai Lihua and not let her suffer. Bai Lihua covered her exposed face and glared at Hua Wenfeng. "This is all because of you." Hearing this, Hua Wenfeng was stunned. "What do you mean?" "The explosion at the Research Institute 19 years ago, that big fire. You've changed my identity, so you're a fake." Hua Wenfeng was shocked. She never expected that Bai Lihua was still alive. In fact, she even returned alive to testify against her. Afterwards, Hua Wenfeng hid behind Father Mo. Old Mo, this woman must be crazy. I don't understand a single word she's saying. Ugly monster, is there something wrong with your brain? How dare you slander my wife? How could I not recognize my own wife? Father Mo scoffed. Or, have you been bribed by that actress? Have you become addicted to acting? Seeing that Father Mo was still protecting Hua Wenfeng, Bai Lihua couldn't help but sneer. That summer when we first met, we agreed to go on a holiday in France. But, just as we boarded the plane, you were called away by a phone call. At that time I told you, it seems, we are not fated to be together. After hearing this, Father Mo's heart felt like it was pounding. On the night of our wedding, I told you that I wasn't in a rush to have a child. You told me that it was fine and that I had already thought of a name. The boy will be called Mo Ting and the girl will be called Mo Xing. Bai Lihua recounted the events of the past in an attempt to refresh Father Mo's memory. Did the slut behind you tell you about this? All she could say was that the fire was too strong, so she suffered from side effects and lost her memory. Father Mo looked at Bai Lihua in detail. No wonder he felt a strange sense of familiarity. But that's impossible. Even if you know these details, you can't pretend to be my wife. Even if her face turned to dust, I would still recognize her. Bai Lihua did not argue nor did she have any expectations towards Father Mo. She had already given up on him. You will pay a heavy price for what you said to me today. As for the slut behind you, she will definitely die a horrible death. Don't try to scare us. Do you think you can pretend to be me with that face of yours? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? After waking up for a while, Tongning's mind was a lot clearer. Hearing the argument outside the door, she immediately asked Mo Ting, "Why is it so noisy outside?" Mo Ting hugged her and explained everything that had just happened. After hearing it, Tongning didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Hua Wenfeng is indeed cunning. I'll save it for you. His meaning was simple. She could do whatever she wanted to do to her. Let's put my matter aside for now. You need to help me reclaim my mother's identity, Tongning said quietly. Perhaps because she had suffered a little, her body felt weak and her lips were dry. In reality, Tongning's intention was to first expose Hua Wenfeng's identity, tear off her mask and let her decide what to do with her. Putting her matter aside for now was simply changing the order. This time, Tongning had almost suffered a miscarriage and hurt her child. Compared to the incident with Tang Xian, it was even more unforgivable. Since Tongning had crossed her bottom line, she was going to pay the price. She was going to take everything that belonged to Hua Wenfeng. Are you feeling better? Seeing that Tongning was still listless, Mo Ting felt extremely guilty. If something really happened to you and the child, I wouldn't know what I could have done. I'm fine, Tongning quickly explained. I'm really fine. The child will be fine too. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply hugged Tongning tightly as his heart was filled with complex emotions. After quite some time, he finally said, "If I had known that giving birth to a child would cause you so much pain, I would have rather not had one." What nonsense are you saying? This is a stage that every woman goes through. I am already luckier than other women because you have always been by my side. Sometimes, I feel like you have it even harder than I have. After speaking, Tongning patted the spot beside her and gestured for Mo Ting to lie down. You are obviously so dazzling. I am already satisfied. Let's talk about what happened outside tomorrow. For now, keep me company and get some rest. You are very tired. Chapter 675. However, before Bai Lihua could make a move, Hua Wenfeng had already revealed the truth. She called it the biggest joke in the world. It was already the 21st century, yet there were still people that dared to claim to be Tongning's mother. Hua Wenfeng called the reporters to make a scene. First, she admitted that she was wrong in the past and that she shouldn't have targeted Tongning. Afterwards, she revealed the real message that she wanted to convey to the reporters. Someone actually dared to say that she was a fake and that she wasn't Mo Ting's mother. Instead, Mo Ting's mother was someone else. I can't believe someone dared to say something that can be proven with just a DNA test. I'm so shocked. I have no choice. I have to expose people like this. So, Hua Wenfeng posted photos of Bai Lihua all over the internet. The public originally thought that the Mo family wouldn't have any more news to dig out. After all, they had Tongning, who was a master at handling matters. But, now that a fake and real mother had appeared, the netizens were in for a good show. So, they waited patiently for the suspenseful fight to unfold. In the current society, it was practically impossible to impersonate someone. Nowadays, medical science was very advanced. A lot of things could be quickly revealed after a DNA test. So, why did Bai Lihua say something like this? The incident had gotten out of hand. It seemed Hua Wenfeng was relying on her unblemished face and the fact that her DNA couldn't be found. She wanted to take over Bai Lihua's husband and enjoy everything that should have belonged to Bai Lihua. In order to prove her innocence, Hua Wenfeng even decided to hold a press conference to clarify all the facts for the public to listen to. Father Mo was once again fooled by her high-sounding words. If she hadn't been wrongly accused, how could Hua Wenfeng have the courage to clarify the truth in front of so many people? So, the doubts that he originally had were easily fooled by Hua Wenfeng's little tricks. Once again, he chose to believe Hua Wenfeng. Faced with Hua Wenfeng's provocation, Bai Lihua was not afraid. Hua Wenfeng was already so evil that she had used her to hurt Tongning. Was she going to continue to stay silent? Even if Mo Ting blamed her in the future, she couldn't care less. If worse came to worst, she would simply find a secluded place and spend the rest of her life alone. She would no longer cause trouble for Mo Ting and Tongning. Yet another press conference. Why did Hua Wenfeng always resort to the media whenever there was an important incident? She had never been able to win against anyone in the entertainment industry, even a small fry. "Andy Bai, come in." Tongning already knew that Bai Lihua wanted to reveal everything to the public, so there was no need to hide her identity anymore. Bai Lihua knew what Tongning wanted to say. In fact, she was already prepared to be ignored, but after entering the hospital room, Tongning smiled comfortingly at her. "Ting and I will help you. We will help you get back everything that belongs to you and we will help you get revenge." Bai Lihua was a little surprised. As she looked at Mo Ting, tears suddenly rolled out of her eyes. So, she pounced onto Mo Ting's side and cried on his shoulder, "Mom is useless. I couldn't even protect my own identity and caused you guys to be dragged down by me." Mo Ting did not say a word. He didn't know how to comfort Bai Lihua. After all, they had been apart for so many years. Even if they wanted to talk about feelings, it was impossible. But he still reached out his arms and wrapped them around Bai Lihua to comfort her. "Don't the two of you dislike my face?" "We already knew. That's why we were so protective of Xingyan," Tongning explained as she patted Bai Lihua on the back of her hand. Bai Lihua was stunned for a few seconds. In the end, she could only laugh and cry as she nodded her head. "How smart are you two? I shouldn't have thought of hiding it from you. But my face. Mom." "Ting and I don't have any unnecessary pride," Tongning replied gently. "Don't worry, okay? Don't worry, Mom will definitely take back everything that belongs to me." But Hua Wenfeng wasn't someone that was easy to deal with. As soon as Chen Xingyan, who was filming in the woods, saw the news, she immediately jumped out of her seat. No wonder everyone looked at her in a strange way. It turned out, someone had come right up to her doorstep to bully her. She couldn't figure out what the truth was, but she couldn't let her mother be bullied. So, she directly asked for a day off from work. "Director, you've seen it for yourself. But you are the female lead. It's bad enough that you always make NGs, but this time, you even asked for a day off. Even if I wanted to make an exception, I couldn't find an excuse. Plus, what use would you be if you went back?" The director asked awkwardly. Lin Xing was standing not too far away. Chen Xingyan immediately looked at him for help. Lin Xing shook his head and beckoned her over. "The crew can't be waiting for you all the time. Since you're already here, you need to know how to follow the rules." "But my mom." Give her a day off. A voice suddenly sounded from behind them, shocking everyone. I guarantee she will only be given 2 days. She will not slow down the production. The director and Lin Sheng both looked at Nzaheo. Lin Sheng did not say another word, but the director was in a difficult position. Nzaheo, you know. If anything happens, I will take responsibility, and Nzaheo comforted, she only has 2 days. When she returns, she will work even harder. Is your financial situation really enough for you to take on such a big risk? Director, if Chen Xingyan is really Mo Ting's sister, I think you should leave her some leeway. And Nzaheo didn't want Chen Xingyan to know about his financial situation, so he had no choice but to threaten the director with Hai Rui. The director thought carefully for a moment and finally nodded his head. You said it yourself. If anything happens, you will take responsibility. Everyone here can be a witness to what I said. After speaking, Nzaheo gestured to Chen Xingyan. Aren't you going to get changed? Chen Xingyan looked at Nzaheo gratefully before she turned around and ran into the waiting room. At this time, Lin Sheng approached Nzaheo and said in a low voice, You will spoil her rotten if you do this. Having a strict teacher like you in charge is enough. I will simply do something to make her happy. After hearing Nzaheo's response, Lin Sheng revealed a meaningful smile. Even if she is really Mo Ting's sister, she is not my type. You don't need to worry. I have confidence in you, but I don't have confidence in her, Nzaheo replied coldly. After all, she doesn't have a brain and has no morals. Lin Sheng laughed silently without saying another word. Chen Xingyan was full of problems, but he couldn't bring himself to hate her. In fact, he wanted to dote on her like a sister. This was probably what they called fate. As for having a brother-in-law like Nzaheo, he was more than happy to have him. But, it seemed, the little brat had yet to be enlightened. Chapter 676. On the way back to Beijing, Chen Xingyan's mind was filled with questions. How did her mother suddenly get rumored to be Mo Ting's mother? Who was Mo Ting? And who was Hua Wenfeng? Why would my mother provoke a big shot like that? And Nzaheo drove with one hand as he glanced at Chen Xingyan and scoffed. If anyone else was in this situation, they would be secretly happy to be Mo Ting's sister. Let's be honest, you must be thinking the same thing. After hearing Nzaheo's words, Chen Xingyan turned to face him. My many years of experience have told me that I am not ordinary. You sure aren't polite. No, what I'm curious about is, why is that? How did my mother get involved with the Mo family? Deep down, Chen Xingyan did not feel that being Mo Ting's sister was a good thing. At least, she was not secretly happy about it. If I'm not wrong, before you were born, your mother was Mo Ting's mother. But how could someone that's familiar with my mother not recognize her and get Hua Wenfeng to pretend to be her mother? This was what Chen Xingyan was most curious about. You've never seen your mother when she wasn't injured, right? And Nzaheo guessed. If you've seen her, perhaps, this question can be easily solved. Chen Xingyan dragged out her last syllable. I never thought that something like this would happen to my mother. Are you sure this isn't a movie? Life had always been more important than art. It was just that information wasn't developed in the past, so no one knew about it. The world was a big place and there were plenty of strange things that could happen. So, a fake identity shouldn't be too strange, right? No matter what, I won't allow my mother to be bullied. I'm afraid you won't need to do anything this time, Nzaheo said with a hidden meaning. With Tongning and Mo Ting around, no one would be able to bully anyone. I never knew I had a twin sister, Bai Lihua said as she sat by Tongning's bedside that night. That night, Bai Lihua sat by Tongning's bedside and sighed. I tried to find out from the Bai family, but no one in the Bai family knows about this. Unfortunately, my mother passed away and the hospital I was born in has long been demolished. Perhaps, the only person that knows the answer to this mystery is Hua Wenfeng. I don't know when she started scheming against me, but it's obvious that she's been observing me for a long time. You should know that even if two people look exactly the same, they would still be exposed if they spent a long time together. However, she was able to lie to Mo Xiaoyuan for so many years. It's enough to prove that she's very cunning. Tongning understood Bai Lihua's state of mind. After all, someone had impersonated her for so many years and she had nowhere to go to seek justice. It was indeed painful. The anger and unwillingness to accept the truth could swallow a person whole at any time. Of course, the reason why Bai Lihua got to where she was today, apart from having a loving husband, was also because of Qin Xingyan's responsibility. Translator, Editor, Tongning listened to Bai Lihua talk for half the night. At this time, Mo Ting grabbed his phone and walked out of the room to give Bai Chendong a phone call. Where is your mother? I saw the news too. My mom received the news too. She's on the plane right now. She was so shocked that her jaw dropped. She said that your family has the constitution to cause big news. Where's grandfather? After receiving the news, I was shocked. You guys handle this matter well, Bai Chendong instructed. Elder Bai will be waiting for you to reveal the truth. It's hard to find the truth behind what happened 19 years ago. Plus, we don't have any evidence that Hua Wenfeng used me to poison you. I really don't know how to prove my identity. After all, Hua Wenfeng had taken over her identity for so many years. So, everything had been changed by her. Her name had been changed and her personality had been changed. So, it was extremely easy for Hua Wenfeng to impersonate Bai Lihua with a simple excuse of amnesia. After hearing Bai Lihua's words, Tongning gently patted her on the back of her hand and comforted, Mom, it's possible to find out the difference between identical twins. But, the amount of work required is too large and the chances are slim. Tongning smiled meaningfully. Hua Wenfeng is indeed cunning. But, I like cunning people to fall into my trap. In reality, Bai Lihua's emotions were complicated. In the past, she was filled with hatred. But, after having Qin Xingyan, she wanted to live a peaceful life. So, when she came into contact with Mo Ting and Tongning again, her hatred was unearthed. But she had never been good at attacking people's hearts. At least, when compared to Hua Wenfeng, she had no chance of winning. After all, Bai Lihua had lost her appearance. This was the biggest blow to her confidence. She had crawled out from a pile of corpses, so much so that a layer of her skin had been scraped off. Tongning thought to herself, let's see how far Mo Ting wants to go. The news spread like wildfire. After all, it was a new piece of news and it happened in the entertainment industry. The reporters were already crying piteously and couldn't wait for the press conference to start. At the same time, Hua Wenfeng was extremely confident. She was well aware of the power of genes. Plus, Bai Lihua had nothing. Most importantly, she didn't even have a recognizable face. All she had was festering scars. If she hadn't thought things through back then, Bai Lihua would have already pushed her away. After painstakingly planning for so many years, how could she allow Bai Lihua to return to her original position so easily? Wenfeng, don't be afraid. We have a DNA test in our hands. You don't need to be afraid. Oldemo, you treat me the best. Hua Wenfeng's biggest pillar of support was Father Mo. As long as Father Mo still trusted her, her position as Madame Mo would remain stable. I will always stand by your side. Father Mo had completely forgotten about the past that Bai Lihua had mentioned in front of him. In his heart, the woman in front of him was truly his wife. Don't worry, I will definitely seek justice for myself. Justice? What was justice? As Qin Xingyan entered the hospital, she did not care about the change in her identity. She simply wanted to know that her mother was fine. As soon as Bai Lihua saw Qin Xingyan, she looked relieved. Mom is fine. You didn't need to come all the way here. What are you talking about? If I'm not by your side, who is going to protect you? Do you think the bodyguards outside are as good as me? Qin Xingyan rubbed her nose in dissatisfaction. Whether it's a fight or an argument, I've never been afraid. And Zihao felt helpless towards Qin Xingyan. He was afraid that she would act rashly and ruin the image that he had worked so hard to clear. You should take care of yourself first. After all, you are still a famous person. Qin Xingyan turned around and pointed her middle finger at Zihao. Regardless of everything else, the people that needed to appear had already appeared. It was time. It was time for Hua Wenfeng to repay what she and Bai Lihua owed in one fell swoop. Chapter 677. Not only did the news of a rich family and a fake identity appear on the entertainment news, it even made its way onto the social news, causing everyone to discuss it enthusiastically. How could an identity be so easily impersonated? This nameless woman must be trying to get famous. I think she is quite mysterious. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but when Hua Wenfeng said that Tongning had injured her, an old friend appeared and said that she would take back what was rightfully mine, right? I actually feel that Hua Wenfeng has something to hide. Normally, when people hear about it, they would think it was funny. No one would step out to clarify it. What's there to clarify? Isn't it obvious that she's trying to hide something? But with the current technology, it's impossible for someone to impersonate someone else, right? The internet was already discussing the matter. This was much more interesting than a celebrity cheating. In fact, it was even more interesting than a TV series that people couldn't stop watching. If Hua Wenfeng steps out to clarify, then that woman will definitely retaliate. Let's just sit back and watch the show. Yes, let's watch the show. Since she was a celebrity, she was prepared to be exposed to the public. This was something that Mo Ting and Tongning had always agreed on. Since she enjoyed the treatment of an artist, it was normal for her to receive public scrutiny. Soon, it was the afternoon of Hua Wenfeng's press conference. Inside the fifth-floor lobby of the Hilton Hotel, Hua Wenfeng had invited reporters. She looked like she was ready to swallow Bai Lihua whole. Father Mo accompanied her the entire time like he was her strongest shield. But apart from him, she did not have a single member of her family or friends by her side. I apologize for my poor relationship with Tongning. Hua Wenfeng suddenly became polite and dignified as she bowed to the reporters. Family matters shouldn't be shown on the big screen and disturb the audience. But I can't tolerate this, Hua Wenfeng said with a sob. Hua Wenfeng held out the DNA report in her hands as she sobbed. Previously, Tongning told me in private that I wasn't Mo Ting's mother. At that time, I wasn't convinced, so I went to do a DNA test. The results are as you can see. There is no doubt that I am related to Mo Ting. But when I went to look for her, she claimed that the sample didn't come from Mo Ting, but from a maid. She even accused me of bribing the doctor. I felt extremely wronged. This isn't the first time Tongning has been selectively blind. Yet, when faced with something so scientific, she still managed to distort the truth. I can't take it anymore. She is indeed powerful. I concede defeat. And today, I'm going to show this evidence to everyone. What fake identity? What fake identity? This isn't a TV drama. If I'm really not me, wouldn't the people around me be able to tell? This is ridiculous. The more Hua Wenfeng spoke, the angrier she became. In the end, she threw the report on the floor. This is ridiculous. But the person that's ridiculous is you. A raspy voice suddenly sounded from the entrance of the hall. When Bai Lihua was young, she had also injured her throat. So, if she spoke loudly, it would be very obvious. The reporters quickly turned to look at the entrance. Wearing a face mask, the legendary Ms. Bai appeared in front of their cameras. Meanwhile, Chen Xingyan followed closely behind to protect her. You've come at the right time. I wanted to know if this ridiculous incident was planned by you or Tongning. Hua Wenfeng stepped off the stage and ran over to Bai Lihua. Which part of you do you think looks like me? No one planned it. You were simply too cruel. Bai Lihua's eyes were filled with hatred and anger. Her eyes were red as tears almost rolled out of her eyes. You haven't forgotten about the explosion at the research lab from over 10 years ago, have you? What has that got to do with you? Bai Lihua sneered. She then removed her face mask and revealed her festering wound to the public. This wound was left behind by the explosion. Are you joking? What evidence do you have? Even if it's just a random wound, I can still say it was left behind by the explosion. Bai Lihua knew that Hua Wenfeng wouldn't admit to it, so she pulled out some other evidence. I know, it's been a long time and most of the evidence has been destroyed. But look at the thing in my hand. What is this? What are you trying to use to fool the public? Hua Wenfeng shrugged her shoulders and smiled. This is our DNA test results, Bai Lihua said loudly. At the same time, she flipped open the report and showed it to the media. Because we are identical twins, we look exactly the same. Most importantly, because of this, you were given the opportunity to impersonate me. The only reason you can stand here confidently and claim that you are Mo Ting's mother is because you know that the DNA test results show that both twins are related to Mo Ting. As for me, the only fingerprint that can prove my identity was destroyed in the fire. In other words, you have no evidence to prove that I'm impersonating you. If you look at it from another angle, it looks more like you are trying to impersonate me. Hua Wenfeng laughed. Since you claim that I'm impersonating you, then no one has the right to say anything. The only person that has the right to say anything is my husband, Mo Xiaoyuan. Bai Lihua looked at Mo Xiaoyuan. Deep down, she knew that the chances of Mo Xiaoyuan helping her were slim to none. I'll give you 1 minute. Since you claim that you are Mo Xiaoyuan's wife, then prove it to me. Bai Lihua bit her lip. Just as she was about to speak, Mo Xiaoyuan cut in, you don't need to say anything. You are not my wife. My wife has always been Hua Wenfeng. I don't know what your intentions are, but I only have one word for you. Get lost. It seems that ugly people always cause trouble. Say one more word. Chen Xingyan yelled as she pointed to Mo Xiaoyuan's nose. You jerk. You don't even recognize your own wife and have been played like a fool. If you say another word, I'm going to break your spine. Father Mo, think about Mo Ting and then look at yourself. I'm starting to suspect that you are an impersonator. You, little bastard, don't try to confuse us. Did you think that you would be able to help your ugly mother? Hua Wenfeng redirected the conversation back to the main topic. The Bei family has never given birth to any twins and I don't have any twins either. Stop trying to fool us. It seems you won't give up until you see your coffin? Bai Lihua looked at Hua Wenfeng coldly. Evidence? Show me. Hua Wenfeng's expression was arrogant. Chapter 678. You want evidence, right? A familiar voice once again sounded from the doorway. Soon, the shocked voices of the reporters could be heard. It's Tongning. It's actually Tongning. Tongning is here. But why is Tongning sitting in a wheelchair? No one expected that Tongning would personally make an appearance. But the most surprising thing was, Tongning appeared in a wheelchair. Seeing Tongning appear, Hua Wenfeng subconsciously furrowed her brows. She knew what it meant. As long as Tongning appeared, it meant that Bai Lihua would not lose this battle. Impossible? Hua Wenfeng clenched her fists. Bai Lihua couldn't produce any evidence to prove her identity. All she had to do was grit her teeth and endure. So, she struck first as she pointed to Tongning's nose. It's all because of you, you evil woman. Did you think you could defeat me with a series of schemes? Tongning was not Bai Lihua. Her expression was calm and collected. In fact, she looked like she was waiting to see Hua Wenfeng perform. Ms. Hua, you have overestimated yourself. Please don't add to the drama, Tongning said calmly. I really don't have the time to frame you. Then, why did you find someone to pretend to be me? Hua Wenfeng, I've told you before, this world is based on the cycle of cause and effect. As long as someone has done something bad, they will definitely leave behind a flaw. After speaking, Tongning gestured for Long Jie to show her evidence. You want evidence, right? In that case, I'll give it to you right now. Hua Wenfeng glanced at the evidence in Tongning's hands and laughed in disdain. What kind of evidence is that? I also have some. This DNA test was commissioned by the most authoritative organization. Did you think that identical twins wouldn't be able to identify Ting's mother? You're wrong. At most, it would take a bit of time and a bit of money. But, after spending an entire month working day and night, the staff from the forensics department finally discovered the subtle differences in your DNA. In fact, they even found over 20 places where Bai Lihua and Mo Ting's DNA were the same. As for the DNA sequences, you weren't involved. You say I'm selectively blind. What about you? At the same time, Tongning turned to Long Jie and said, Hai Rui will soon release an accurate comparison. If you don't believe me, you can give the Beijing Appraisal Center a call. This is an appraisal from the country. It can't be wrong. I used to study medicine, so I can understand this picture. In the same scene, Ms. Bai and President Mo are the same, but Hua Wenfeng is completely different. If this happens a few times, it will be obvious who the real mother is. This is solid evidence. Ironclad evidence. Hearing this, Hua Wenfeng's expression changed. She snatched the DNA test from Tongning's hands and looked at it. Seeing the clear markings on the test, Hua Wenfeng looked at Tongning in shock. Even though she already believed it and her lips were trembling, Hua Wenfeng still yelled at Tongning, "This is impossible. Tongning, stop trying to confuse us with fake evidence." Whether they are trying to confuse the public or not, the media will naturally be able to tell. Tongning continued to play the game. That's right. Do you take us for fools? They are the most authoritative organization, a reporter interrupted. I never expected this. I originally thought this was impossible. I never expected the plot to turn around like this. Bai Lihua is actually Mrs. Mo, but what exactly is going on? Tongning, can you tell us the truth in detail? Hua Wenfeng noticed that the media's attitude had changed, so she quickly tried to stop Tongning. Tongning, how did I offend you? Why would you frame me like this? Tongning ignored Hua Wenfeng's roar as she turned to the media and looked at Bai Lihua with pity. I don't think I have the right to speak on this matter. Only Madame Bai Lihua can give you all the answers. You're all lying. You're all lying. Hua Wenfeng tried to stop Bai Lihua from going on stage, but Chen Xingyan pushed her away. Afterwards, Bai Lihua slowly walked to the front of the stage and looked at the audience. It was as if she had experienced the vicissitudes of life. 19 years ago, at noon, I was having lunch in the laboratory when there was a sudden explosion that sent me flying. When I woke up, I was already on the way to the hospital. The person who saved me told me that he found me in a remote mountain in the United States. I was covered in blood. I lay in the hospital for 8 months and received treatment for 8 months. But by the time I left the hospital, the research lab had already moved and my identity had been taken by someone that looked exactly like me. I didn't know who she was and I didn't know what her motive was. She and my husband loved each other. She called out my name and took everything that belonged to me. But because of my disfigurement, I couldn't appear in front of the public and I couldn't retrieve my identity. Eventually, I accepted the person that saved me and gave birth to an adorable daughter. I originally thought it was God's plan. But I never expected that Hua Wenfeng would use my identity to hurt my son and daughter-in-law. I can't accept this. What right does she have? She's just an impersonator. What right does she have? That's why I'm standing here today. Even if my face is disfigured, I will retrieve my identity and everything that belongs to me. I am the daughter of the Bei family and Mo Ting's mother. What is she? She is an impersonator. You're lying. Hua Wenfeng immediately retorted. You're the liar. You're trying to steal my husband and everything that belongs to me. I'm not interested in your husband. I just want my son and daughter-in-law to be safe, Bai Lihua said angrily. Since I'm already standing here today, I know that I can't make a rash decision without evidence. But you all seem to be curious as to why Tongning appeared in a wheelchair. In that case, let me tell you the answer. Someone spiked Tongning's chicken soup with quinidine and almost caused her to have a miscarriage. Bai Lihua, don't forget that you were the one that prepared Tongning's meals, Hua Wenfeng said coldly. Are you trying to frame me? No way. Knowing that Hua Wenfeng would deny everything, Tongning immediately called out to Bai Lihua, Mom, I will explain everything to the media. I was wondering why Tongning was in a wheelchair. It turns out she was poisoned like this. What is quinidine? What is it? It's an abortion drug that causes stillbirths. The media below the stage began to discuss amongst themselves. Chapter 679. My tolerance towards Madame Hua is obvious to all, Tongning said as she sat in her wheelchair. From the moment we first met, I'm sure the media is well aware of everything she has done to me. She slandered me for stabbing her, cursed my unborn child with an illness, visited me multiple times to humiliate me, and even spread rumors of me cheating on Nzaheo. Finally, she spiked my chicken soup yesterday. Everything she has done has made me feel bitterly disappointed. Because I'm pregnant, I need to set a good example for my child. There are a lot of things that I don't want to deal with in public. But all I've gotten in return is worse. But patience will eventually come to an end. Especially since the person you're trying to hurt is our unborn child. Today, not only am I here to seek justice for my mother-in-law, Madame Bai, I also want Hua Wenfeng to give me an explanation. Are you going to admit to the fact that you spiked my chicken soup with quinidine? Right now, you have the upper hand. Whatever you say is the truth, Hua Wenfeng said in a resigned manner. In reality, she was pretending to be pitiful and pestering Tongning endlessly. She knew that Tongning had no evidence to prove anything. There was no way that Tongning could prove that she was guilty. You can even overturn a confession. I don't expect you to admit to anything, Tongning said coldly as she looked at Hua Wenfeng. Her eyes were filled with ridicule. Quinidine is not a prescription drug. It's not easy to get your hands on it. As a biological researcher, all your applications for quinidine need to be recorded. I've sent someone to your research lab and obtained a copy of your application for quinidine. Can you tell me where you used the drug? Of course I used it in my experiments. Experiments? Tongning laughed as her tone became even more frivolous. But you've already taken a few days off work. Where have you been conducting your experiments? You didn't take any of the equipment with you, yet you took quinidine with you? How could it be such a coincidence? Simply because I applied for quinidine, you think I'm the culprit? I'm afraid that can't be used as evidence, Hua Wenfeng tried her best to argue. Then even if you can't tell us the use of quinidine, you can't clear your identity as a suspect, right? Tongning raised an eyebrow at Hua Wenfeng. Ask any doctor if they don't know where these drugs are. If you can't tell them what they are used for, if they're not used for illegal purposes, then what are they used for? On top of that, on the afternoon of the day of my accident, my back garden caught on fire. However, the surveillance cameras did not record the cause of the fire. Don't tell me that the plants in my garden would spontaneously combust in this weather. This proves one thing. The arsonist is extremely familiar with Hyatt Regency's surveillance system and was able to perfectly avoid it. What you're saying is also possible for Bai Lihua. Hua Wenfeng immediately pulled Bai Lihua into the room. How would I know if the two of you teamed up to frame me? Do you think, with all the crimes you've committed, will people believe you or us? Tongning looked at the media expectantly. In order to promote justice, the media naturally stood on the victim's side. Whether it was Bai Lihua or Tongning. If it was according to my personality before I got pregnant, you would have been torn apart 10 times already. I would never allow you to lie here and make up the truth. What right does a person that is fake and would kill others for the sake of riches and glory have to speak? In the end, Hua Wenfeng couldn't win against Tongning in an argument, nor could she win against everyone's ridiculing gazes. In the end, Hua Wenfeng placed her pleading gaze on Father Mo as she ran over and grabbed onto him. Old Mo, we've been married for so many years. Tell me, who am I? Father Mo had already watched the entire incident unfold. As he looked at the woman in front of him, he felt a chill down his spine. Actually, I don't really know you, Father Mo replied in seriousness. Old Mo, it's not like that. Tongning and that woman framed me. The DNA report has already been released. Are you still trying to deny it? Father Mo forcefully pushed Hua Wenfeng away and pushed her to the ground in agitation. I was wondering why you took the quinidine. I never thought you would use it on Tongning. Did you know you were trying to kill someone? After being pushed aside, Hua Wenfeng immediately crawled back and hugged onto Father Mo's leg. Old Mo, it's not like this, it's not. The truth is right in front of our eyes. You have been pretending to be my wife from the beginning. You are a slut. I even tried to protect you and help you deal with Tongning. Now that I think about it, it's quite ironic. Oldemo, you need to believe me. We've been married for so many years. Don't say any more. You're making me feel disgusted. Father Mo trembled in anger. I always thought that Tongning didn't see the bigger picture and that she was always targeting you. But I never expected you to be so cruel as to harm an 8-month-old child in her stomach. Tongning, call the police. I can testify that Hua Wenfeng took the quinidine and brought it home with her. Hearing this, Hua Wenfeng broke down as she lay on the ground and cried, Oldemo, you can't do this to me. I only did it because I was afraid of losing you. Unfortunately, I've already called the police. Seeing Hua Wenfeng's sorry state, Tongning was ready to kill her. Hua Wenfeng, since you like to complain so much, you should talk to the police. No. Hua Wenfeng was terrified as she crawled up from the ground and tried to escape. But with the current situation, how could she run away? I don't want to go to the police. I don't want to. However, at this time, Tongning watched as Hua Wenfeng and the reporters tangled together. She did not make a move to stop them, nor did she immediately call the police. She knew exposing Hua Wenfeng wasn't going to let her off the hook. Father Mo then looked at Bai Lihua. Just as he reached out his hand to pull her away, Bai Lihua quickly dodged. You're not worthy. Father Mo looked upset. It was obvious that he was blaming himself. But Bai Lihua did not give him a chance to repent. Since you've been married to Hua Wenfeng for so many years and you're willing to risk your life to protect Hua Wenfeng, then go ahead and chase after her. Although my face has been ruined, I am still the daughter of the Bei family and Mo Ting's mother. Mo Xiaoyuan, you are a jerk. After speaking, Bai Lihua stepped off the stage and approached Tongning. Father Mo's expression was sorrowful. Especially when he thought about how he had previously treated Bai Lihua. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.